Live alone in the wild season 11. The competition site is located in the extreme cold within 200 kilometers of the Arctic Circle. This is the coldest challenge location in the Wild Alone series. It has 8 months of winter. The temperature drops to a shocking minus 40 degrees. The original inhabitants, the Inuviat, have abandoned this desolate land.
I'm not tapping out. I'd rather die.
10 hunter power players will be here. They must rely on their excellent survival skills. Facing hardships and cold alone, the contestant with the longest survival will receive a $500,000 prize. It has 4,700 square meters of plain. The Mackenzie River runs through every piece of land here. Rivers, lakes, and swamps intersect. The muddy river system formed a confusing maze, but it also breeds a wealth of natural resources. It is home to freshwater trout and wolverines, except for the more than 40,000 moose. It's also home to 4,000 wolves and 5,000 grizzly bears. Only survival players strong enough to survive here.
Here goes nothing.
That's beautiful!
Yeah!
Opening day, all 10 hunter power players appear. They arrive by helicopter to challenge their respective positions. Every player has enough confidence to win the final $500,000 prize. The scenery you see on the plain is enough to shock you. Grizzly bears everywhere, proof of the danger of this wilderness. Go back 4 months. The Wilderness Alone crew has arrived here to set up camp. They have to do it before winter sets in. Prepare everything you need to do. They need to set up a support office here and set up the players' 0-hour homes. Before we start the challenge, the show will let the contestants live here and acclimate to the climate. The process of preparing for the preliminary work is very long. The selected players will come here 1 month in advance to adapt to life. When the contestants arrive, they will enter their own shelter. The facilities here are rudimentary, but they can meet their daily use. Inside the shelter is a bed and a stove for heating. It's great for camping. Tucker was walking along the shore, found bare footprints on the ground, and very close to the shelter. You can imagine how dangerous this place is. The show team told them some rules. Keep your camera with you at all times here. Each received his own photographic equipment, a big box containing all the equipment they were filming. During adaptation, every player must be familiar with their own equipment. Eat as much as you can here. The players are pretty excited when they get here. The show crew is already setting up the equipment. They use helicopters to install wireless devices on high ground. This ensures instant communication between the players. The show is just trying to keep them safe. Let the contestants die. Survival coaches also explore their surroundings, find out what's around, and whether the wild fruit growing nearby is safe. The seeds of these berries have a coat of hair on the surface. High silica content. If a contestant eats this berry, an itchy but is likely to occur, actually before the challenge. The crew is already familiar with the surroundings. The players live here every day. It's the same as living in the wild. They grill fish and eat together. In my spare time, I also practice my bow and arrow. This time, 10 hunters competed. The skill of each player is very strong. At the same time, the show also invited local residents to educate them. A lot of it, anyway. It's about respecting nature. The contestants quickly spend a month here. They learn survival skills from each other, constantly improve their ability to survive. Living alone in the wilderness has always been a challenge. Players need to constantly push their limits. Let yourself survive as long as possible. Opening day. The show set up camera equipment for each contestant in advance. That night, the show has just finished its final meeting with the players. After the physical examination of the contestants, let them go to bed early. The next morning all the players get their stuff ready. Start approach challenge. If the top 10 contestants can give us a good story, let's look forward to it. Tucker was the first to enter the copy, be able to participate in Wilderness Alone. The mood was quite exciting, always happy in front of the camera. I'm just a little confused about the show. Got him in the mud from the start. Let's get out of here and head for the woods. Find a suitable place to set up shelter. Tucker is a game warden himself. The daily task is to patrol the field. I learned it in the army and proficient in various wilderness survival techniques. I like to go fishing and eat it cooked. This challenge is a little reluctant to give up family. I hope to win money to make life better. Tucker's been looking for open space ever since he got into the woods. There better be a fishing spot nearby. With years of experience quickly found, the path from which the beast walks. We should be right on our way to water. You know, there are bears in this area. Tucker is always on the lookout for the neighborhood. Soon we can see the river. The shore is either bear or wolf tracks. Tucker was pretty upset about the situation. I'm afraid I can't sleep too deeply at night. I have to say the show found a good spot. I'm afraid the contestants are getting too comfortable. Next door William has found the right place, and he's in no rush to build a shelter. I want to get the net set up first, so you can eat fish on the first day. He He found it much easier than fishing. Just throw it in the water and you're done. I can get on with other things. William looked the same around him. I pick a spot and I start putting down the net. His plan was to catch fish and hoard them, later starve to eat fish, and set some traps for grouse hares and stuff. Moose hunting is just too much to think about. William is in a very remote area. I'm too hungry to order takeout, so he really liked to go out and eat. Know the most efficient way to lay a trap. He's a professional fisherman himself. What is the best fishing that is best understood? If I win the money, he'll just get a bigger house to get kids into better schools. Now is the time to take care of the shelter. It doesn't have to be too good. I cut down the nearby trees and trim them. It's pretty much the same with a simple weave. It's easy to say, but it's pretty tiring when you do it. William needs to stop and rest. That's when we can take a look at the nets. It was easy to catch a fish. Having fish on the first day was a joy. You don't know what it tastes like. It was fine. Suddenly,
No way.
the fish just ran away. The smile didn't go away. It's just transferred to our faces. William felt that he had been careless. Let's hope it comes back for another chance. The camera goes to Paz, just about to set up the shelter. Found a deer not far away. That looks pretty fat. Maybe try hunting later. Paz is a wilderness survival enthusiast. I spend more time in the wild than I do at home. His job is to teach people how to fish. I am full of confidence for this challenge. I did all the training before I got here. Whether it's building shelters or going hunting, he can do it easily. The only thing missing is hand-to-hand bear experience. If I win the money, he's going to pay off his mortgage and make his life better. Now is the time to build a shelter. Pets thinks it just needs a little tweaking. I was able to lie down and rest. He intends to do as much work as possible in the early stages. What happens to the food resources? It takes quite a few branches to build, either cutting down trees or on the way to cutting down trees. The framework was quickly built. The reserved space is quite large. I'm afraid the black bears will come in to stock up such a shelter. He sets it up almost once a week. That's quite a lot of experience. You can put the tarp on in a few minutes. It doesn't look perfect on the surface, but inside it's quite comfortable to live in. He couldn't wait to lie down and take a look at Cubby the heavyweight. You can tell by the size of this body you're starving. He's trying to figure out which way to go later. QB makes bows and arrows for a living. Usually they live a self-sufficient life. Surviving in the wild is as intimate as coming home. Have honed their skills quite well. He is confident that he can hold on to the end. After all, the flesh on this body is not empty. If we win the money, it'll make the family better off. The most important thing now is to find shelter. You didn't find anything along the way. I did see a squirrel in a daze. Cubby doesn't have any ink. Just grab the bow and aim. Squirrels are so cute. They must taste good. Too bad it was so close. The bows and arrows went into the branches. You can imagine how much damage that did. A bad start can also affect your mood. I have one less bow and arrow to use. It took time to find a good place. He was going to make a fire and drink water. Right now that's a lot of thirst. Fortunately, all the wood around here is good for firewood. You can easily gather a bundle and use it. After all, I brought my tools here. It just clicked and lit up. Take the time to boil the water. He's gonna need a little shelter later. Just a rope with a tarp. You can't have a black bear and a storm on your first night. I'm just gonna stay here. We'll build a bigger shelter when we can. A couple of hunting trails nearby pass by. If we're lucky, we can hunt meat sitting down. Even if we do meet a bear. I got a fire and a bow. Let's just say Cubby's got some real balls. Don't know what happened. William did not choose to build a fire. The temperature is still acceptable. Otherwise, he'd have to get up in the middle of the night to light a fire. Now all I can think about is the fish that got away. I've been thinking about what I did wrong. Tucker's still a little unaccustomed to the night here. It took a lot of effort on the first day. As much as I want to lie down and fall asleep, but the thought of the beasts nearby. I dare not sleep too deeply. Afraid of being bitten awake in the middle of the night. Pause even with the shelter. But I get nervous when I hear something nearby. Suddenly I heard a bear cry. So frightened that he quickly shouted to drive away. We don't know if the bear left. I won't be able to sleep anyway. Didn't get much rest all night. I barely made it to dawn. He's upgrading the shelter for his own safety. Well, at least we can withstand a bear attack. Before the show came in, they said there were no bears. I ran into him the first night. I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky. I get so nervous when I hear anything. Speed up the completion of the shelter. Try to get some rest before it gets dark. Michaela has already set up the shelter. She found many ducks swimming in the river. Try to make some kind of bait to attract them. This pile of grass is the key. Wilderness craft lesson begins. Let's get the beak shape out first. Then there's the neck and the body. Just slowly twist it into a ball. She used to make it for the kids back home. The finished product looks pretty good. Finally, hold it up with a stick. A duck bait is all it takes. I'm just wondering if that's really gonna work. Michaela was a big fan of wilderness survival. I often go out into the wild by myself to relax. Well, that's true when it comes to wolves. She knows a lot about survival in the wild, how to get food. With enough time and energy, even bear traps can be made. Their job is to guide wilderness exploration, take people to enjoy the joy of nature adventure. I just got married a while ago, hoping to win the money and have a better life. Michaela has strung the nets. You can set it up and wait for the fish to bite. The only downside is that the water isn't deep enough. Can't fully unfold the net. It will also affect the efficiency of catching fish. There's a lot of wolf activity around here. Looks like he's going to be pretty big. I can handle 1 or 2 on my own. I'm afraid of being surrounded by a pack of wolves. Cubby says whole berries for breakfast. Sweet and sour, especially refreshing. Make jam and store it if you have a chance. These should only be used as snacks. The most important thing right now is to find a place to build a shelter. An empty place like this, we could use 3 trees for support. All we have to do is cut a hole in it as an insertion point. Don't worry about food at all. You can survive on your own fat for a while. I have to say that people who can starve do well. Cubby built a classic A shelter. He even had to make a raised bed off the ground. You can tell by the frame that this shelter isn't easy. It takes a lot of time just to collect the materials. He figured if he could build it, I don't have to worry about problems for at least 6 months. Looks like it's going to take a few days to set up. Tucker doesn't know what's going on. It was only the 2nd day and I missed my family. That's not good news, is it? In the past, many players quit because of loneliness. He's not very emotionally stable right now, trying to decide whether or not to go home. On the one hand, I want to prove myself here. My stomach is already out there growling with hunger. It's better to find some food first. Only berries are around. What's surprising is that you can get a nosebleed from eating a berry. That's not good news, is it? Is it really the berries? But I've been eating a lot. To be on the safe side, Tucker had to give up eating berries. Turn and go to the river to try your luck. He doesn't want to be sent home over berries. Now the best thing to do is to get a fishing line into the water. Wait till evening to check back. It's not that hard to make. Tucker could just make it up. It's all about the fish here. We also found black bear tracks on Michaela's side of the river. Looks like it was left this morning. The heart is beating a little faster now. I don't know if it's the black bear. The nets are not getting anything. The worst part is it's all intertwined. I have to waste my time fixing it. The main problem is that the river is too shallow. It's best to move on if you can. I'll have to make do with it for now. Let's see if we can catch a fish. The nets are finally in order. Put it back where it was. I hope you come back tomorrow and see a fish. On the way back, Michaela came across a large rock. It was a blessing for her. Clear the area of weeds immediately. Then I touched the stone and prayed. I hope I can eat well and drink well here. The competition went on to the 3rd day. William spends most of his time in shelters. The body is too weak. Some food is urgently needed for energy. If only I could have caught that fish. I don't have to hunt for food now. There are not many wild fruits to eat around here. It doesn't taste very good either. The only good news is traces of rabbits. As long as he sets enough traps, I'm sure we can catch a rabbit to eat. Originally, I was thinking of filling my stomach with fish, but the fish pulled away. Had to target the rabbit. Boy, William will remember that fish for the rest of his life. You can see some fresh rabbit poop on the floor. Now we just need to get this stick in our hands, then use wire to make a noose. As long as the rabbit passes this way, the other end will sink in and crack itself off. The joy of catching the rabbit diluted the fish's escape. Otherwise, I'm not focused on the challenge. It's just a matter of when the trap clicks. Okay, now look elsewhere for resources. What's interesting is the journey. Forget the berries. Not even traces of animals. I did find a little swamp. You suddenly want to see something swimming in the water. Immediately take the stick and beat it into the water. Man, I didn't think we could catch fish in here, even if it's not enough. But mentally it was quite satisfying. There must be plenty of fish in the water. I might be able to feed myself on these. Just keep hitting the stick in the water. He's got a lot of work to do. I'm finally getting a good meal tonight. This is the right way to open up wilderness solitude. Michaela's been here 4 days. I usually use steam to clean my hair. I feel like I didn't wash it. Might as well rub it with moss. She loves it. It makes her feel so much easier. It's time to check on the nets after the daily prayers. No ducks were attracted to the bait. Nothing on the fishing net, either. You can only move the nets into deep water. If it were a big river, she'd be more confident of catching the fish. Now we just have to keep adjusting the position. Hopefully, we'll find out where the fish swim. And the bad news is that the wolf footprint has increased. Like you've enjoyed some kind of food here. After some examination, who would have thought the wolf would have eaten a squirrel kidney? It smells kind of fresh. Thanks for the wolf. I'll eat this later. Just build a fire right next to it. You don't need any seasoning. Just put it on the fire. Okay? It smells a little funny. It tastes a little like beef. Overall, it was pretty good. She's a little curious. What does squirrel meat taste like? Cubby's been busy for so many days. The shelter needs more time to finish. Now we need to get some good protein back for energy. It was supposed to be done in a week. It seems a little difficult now. Cubby's still worried about running into a black bear on the road. After all, this is still quite rich in fat. The terrain here is very unfriendly to him. I almost had to crouch down to get through. It's been a bit of a journey. but finding deer poop is worth it. Very dry to the touch. Haven't been here in a while. Follow the moose trail. See where it goes. After a few steps, I found the tracks of a black bear. The further you go inside, the more black bears show up. Cubby kind of wants to double back. No, we're all here. Let's go a little further. Suddenly, good guy almost sent himself away with that fall. Just in the corner of the leg. If we don't do this right, it could get infected. Cut a hole in the pants while holding back the pain. Fortunately, the bow and arrow did not add tetanus effect. Just pull it straight out. QB can only perform a simple dressing. He didn't want to quit the game. You know, it's close to the shelter. It's at least half an hour's walk. The road back isn't easy either. Tired and bleeding, I can barely walk. I don't know how long Cubby's been gone. Finally back near the shelter. The wound was too big to stop the bleeding. I was kind of optimistic about Cubby at first. Now I regret to announce my withdrawal. So no matter how much wilderness survival experience you have, accidents are hard to avoid. Cubby only stayed 4 days before sending himself away. And with an arrow from a fall, definitely the most explosive of all the choices alone in the wild. If we get another chance to attend, I hope the show can call him back. I still think Cubby's got a lot going for him. Curious how good are the players who haven't shown yet. Let's wait and see.
Participants in the Wilderness Survival Show are growing more skilled every season, as some are still setting up shelters. One contestant has already skillfully caught a squirrel and used its guts as bait to land a large fish. No seasoning needed, the natural flavor is even more enticing. How long would it take you to get meat? Who'd guess someone would quit this early? Curious to see the unseen contestant's performance. The first to enter the game is Craig, and he is quite excited. He has applied every season. Finally, he's in. Given the grizzlies nearby, being well prepared and armed is crucial. He's keen to avoid becoming a grizzly's first meal. Making a living as a lumberjack, his favorite pastime is exploring the woods. Bringing back some snacks for an extra meal. He is quite confident in his wilderness survival skills, often spending weeks alone outside. He's yet to live near a grizzly, but whenever possible, he teaches his son survival skills, dreaming they'll one day embrace wilderness life together. I just don't know if the production team can wait until they grow up. If he wins the prize money this time, his family could do more beneficial things. Craig is poised for any challenge, be it a grizzly or more, ensuring a brighter future for his kids. Craig is sure he can handle any threat within his shooting range. Bushes clutter the view, slowing progress, making walking quite slow. It took some time to get to the river. There are quite a lot of footprints from grizzly bears and turkeys. With some luck, he could snag a turkey for a meal. Then, he suddenly hears a noise. Venturing back into the jungle, he's surprised to find a paper squirrel right away, a sight that fills him with joy, hoping it becomes a regular meal. I originally thought Craig wouldn't hit it, but he caught the squirrel and brought it in front of the camera. Goodness, he hasn't even sorted out his shelter, but he has solved tonight's meal and can even use the innards as bait to catch fish. The start can be said to be quite perfect, and he doesn't forget to hold a small celebration for his successful hunt. He feels that coming to live alone in the wilderness is fantastic. Turning to Sarah, she's already constructed her shelter. Her biggest concern isn't the challenges of surviving in the wild, but forgetting to change the camera batteries. The beginning part wasn't recorded. She hopes the production team's batteries will change themselves. Together, she and her husband operate a fishing cabin. It's often him leading their wilderness survival outings, despite their remote living situation. But life is quite joyful. There are also bears around, so coming here to compete feels just like coming home. I just don't know if there are many fish here. I hope to utilize my fishing skills if I can win the prize money. Her husband's health means he can't join, which dims their hopes for the prize. Winning could have led to their early retirement. All our bags are packed and set. Now, let's find nearby food we can eat. We've got bears and wolves around our area. I'm very clear on how to deal with them. My mindset is quite good. The most common and easiest food to get at the start is surely berries, impossible to deplete before winter. Sarah also stumbled upon mushrooms. Consuming them now won't lead to visions of elves dancing. Starting with berries, he's already content. While returning, I spotted beavers in the lake. I wish I had brought a bow and arrow to have beaver for dinner tonight. I hope to see it again later, then I can make a trap to catch it. Blake is being very cautious, very worried about getting lost in the jungle. He saw many berries along the way, but had no mood to pick and eat them. Finding an open area was tough, and sadly, it wasn't right for setting up a shelter. Being near water would be ideal, especially for fishing. Thus, it's easier for me to fish. Blake often heads into the wild for a fresh meal. By 8, I'd already taken down a deer. My survival skills are pretty solid, from fishing to trapping. For me, it all boils down to skill. My main concern is the cold. I've never faced it and worry my gear might not keep me warm enough. Self-sufficiency is truly amazing. Winning the prize could significantly boost my family's life quality. This could be my sole shot at experiencing solitude in the wild. I need to make the most of it and aim to return home to my family triumphantly. After searching, Blake spotted an ideal location. With his initial burst of energy, he aimed to construct a sturdier shelter. Luckily, the trees around weren't too dense, allowing me to gather plenty of wood quickly. With the biting cold looming, first, you have to ensure the shelter can block the rain. Next, the fire must be maintained all night. The shelter has already been built very sturdy. Just gotta plug the holes and throw a waterproof cover over it. Should be solid for a bit, especially after that squirrel situation. I kept trying to fish, but without much success. I still need to get the shelter up first. I'm not planning on making it perfect. Getting the waterproof cloth up is enough for now. I'll work on a cabin when things settle. The shelter's decent, at least. At least it's sturdy against strong winds. Now, Craig's focus is on more fishing. Surprisingly, in the concrete fish gutter, I managed to catch a fish to eat. It was quite big. Having pine and fish to eat on the first day makes me feel like I can last till the end. Isn't it easy? I quickly lit a fire nearby to cook the meat. It's a bit of a hassle having more meat than I can eat. I'll just stew the meat to eat now and plan to build a smokehouse soon to preserve the food longer. Likely, the other contestants are struggling more than I am. I skipped the seasoning. The natural taste is unbeatable. This squirrel meat tastes just like chicken legs. I'm in a great mood. Of course, this is just a snack. The real highlight is this fish stew. Surprisingly tasty fish around here. Definitely coming back for more fishing. By the competition's second day, Peter woke feeling rested, thankfully undisturbed by bears. Yet, he found himself somewhat disoriented, not sure what to do next. Anyway, first, watch the sunrise to relax. All I can think of is to look for food. Also, I need to scout a new spot for my shelter, not wanting to face winter unprepared. First up, boiling water to stay hydrated before getting to work. I believed a fire starter would simplify things, yet the humidity here was unforeseen. Peter's been occupied for ages, and has only seen some sparks. Worrying now won't help. I can only look for dry firewood nearby. Professionally, I'm a librarian. My days are filled with reading and studying wild edible plants. Most of my survival skills come from books. I think I have a talent for this, even doing better than what's described in the books. I'm fully capable of living independently in the wild. Exercising daily boosts my confidence in outlasting others in solitude. I always enjoy taking my family on adventures, telling my kids to be brave and take on challenges. I hope I can also bravely face difficulties. When Peter was looking for wood, he found a lake. I can try fishing here in the future. Getting a fire going is crucial at the moment. Drinking that water as is? Bad idea. It could be contaminated with anything. A hunting trail's right here, and just in. Bear droppings. Seems old, but it's definitely bad news. The shelter needs to be far from this path. He doesn't want to see a bear wandering around at night. Those bears, in preparation for winter, will bite anything. He continues trying to light the fire. This time it's much better. After a while, he finally sees smoke rising. Half a day just to light a fire? This is tougher than expected. Blake's next move is to clear out the nearby berries. Can't leave these for the bears. Finding blueberries would be a bonus. He's gathered plenty of hard berries already. He's set for food this week and loves the area. It's perfect for a holiday. Squirrels are always audible in the jungle. He prefers not to spend time on hunting. Setting up snares and traps is enough. It all depends on their fate. Setting traps is particularly simple. Just place snares where they might pass. Leaving it to fate is key. Eventually, meat will come naturally. Initially, his plan was to boil water. Surprisingly, the fire died quickly. Looks like more firewood is needed. Blake had just taken off. Suddenly, a squirrel showed up on camera. Quite daring, he quickly grabbed his weapon to pursue. With this arrow, there's easily meat to eat. This food delivered to the door, if only there were more. Next is the pleasant processing time. Try to keep the fur intact. After accumulating more, he can make a big bunch. He seems to want to eliminate all the squirrels here. He recalls his daughter's fondness for chasing squirrels. She'd cry when he caught one, yet enjoyed eating it greatly. He favors stewed meat, yet wild greens are scarce. Still, just having meat is a win. He loves this solitary wilderness life. His spirits are high, just wishes for a daily squirrel meal. Sholana has already rebuilt the shelter. The scale looks quite impressive, just not sure if it can withstand the cold. He's concerned about losing hair, knowing how crucial outdoor nutrition is. The upside? It keeps him warm at night. He must keep upgrading his shelter to stay warm beyond winter, given its proximity to the lake. Nearby forests will shield him from the wind. He's dedicating today to this task. However, his physical strength is a concern. He's concerned that shelter repairs might exhaust him for days. Still, he must find food if possible. He's unsure where Haley, spotted previously, has vanished. Sarah felt low at that moment. Then, she seemed to detect a strong presence in the water. Without hesitation, Sarah grabbed her bow and arrow, taking aim as Haley swam closer. This thrilled her immensely, uncertain if her shot would land. Sarah noticed her arrow was still, uncertain if the beaver lingered. She felt compelled to venture into the water. Sarah was pushing her limits for the beaver, aware she hadn't properly made a fire. Getting too cold meant being carried home. Sarah trembled from the cold water, missing the beaver entirely. She needed to rush back to get warm and dry. She didn't know if she could catch that beaver later. Jack was busy looking for food to hunt. So far, he had only seen big birds in the sky. He couldn't shoot those. Jack used to be a professional falconer, quite familiar with falconry. His wilderness survival skills were mostly taught by his father, especially good at fishing. He could fish all day alone and had hunted many animals by himself. He had never tried hunting bears, something he was really looking forward to. His kids also loved playing outdoors. Winning the prize meant more time with his kids, but early on, trouble struck. He didn't know when his backpack zipper had opened, and his fishing line was gone. He spent a lot of time, but couldn't find it. He had no choice but to get the fishing net ready ahead of time. He couldn't continue to rest on the fishing line. He had to get back into wilderness survival. The Fish King bait was useful, but he didn't know how it would perform in such dangerous waters. Peter had stored up a lot of fat before, which was the most important energy in the early stage. He was going to invest in building a shelter. There were plenty of branches nearby to use. Initially, he chose where to place the bed and fireplace, then figured out the shelter's size. He also had to deal with ground moss. He had to clear the moss and reposition stones. Up to this point, no issues arose. After setting the frame, construction progressed swiftly. Next, he had to position the waterproof fabric and cover it with moss. This way, it could withstand heavy snowfall without issue. It's worth noting, the shelter resembled a turtle shell. Jack, out of luck for forgetting a fire starter, had invested much effort to perfect it. Ideally, trading for the fishing line would be great. Starting fires through friction daily is truly tiring. Jack prepared some charcoal, hoping it would save some energy in making fire. He's also drawn up batches suitable for storage. It just needs a simple assembly, and it looks pretty good, even defensible, for him. This firebox is more useful than a fire stick. The finished product looks quite nice, and Jack's belt buckle is made of carbon steel. He specifically acquired it for fire creation. His survival skills are impressive, though his fortune seems lacking. Keeping this box secure means he'll be free from survival troubles. By day 5, Jack's been without meat for ages. He could only check the fishing net's success. With the river freezing, it was unclear how viable fishing remained. There was no catch in the fishing net. Jack had to focus his energy elsewhere, like hunting a lost beaver. The gap was somewhat wide. He tossed a leafy willow branch into the water, hoping the beaver would approach to tidy it. Uncertain of its arrival, he had no choice but to wait. At that moment, Jack felt quite disheartened. He sensed imminent failure and departure. Then, Kolig ingeniously proposed transforming an arrow quiver into a water vessel. He felt quite clever about his idea. Next, he had to craft a basic bow and quiver. The arrow tips were razor sharp. Accidentally touching the sharp arrowheads could lead to tetanus concerns. Trimming the arm guard and removing extra bits. The bow and arrow could be placed on top, allowing him to draw his sword even faster. He couldn't wait to go hunting. Numerous bear tracks dotted the coast, yet identifying the fresh ones proved challenging, especially with squirrel tracks being more recognizable. Today was lucky to see the tracks of Nalu. He hurriedly followed to see. His hunting strategy was very simple. He'd take whatever he could haul. Surprisingly, he found himself across the swamp, spotting Nalu resting there. The gap between them was significant, reducing today's hunting prospects. His only option was to trace the river for a better spot. Kolig slowly made his way around. So far, Nalu had no reaction. He felt he had to try. He'd honed this call for ages. Just as he hoped to hunt, Nalu glanced over. Nalu started to retreat. That really frustrated me. I imitated the call so well, yet I couldn't even attract Nalu. I tried to call out louder, and we were getting closer, less than 200 meters apart. Kolig wanted to get even closer, but when the distance was less than 100 meters, he knew he couldn't get any closer. He picked up his bow and arrow, aimed, and shot. However, Nalu just stood there, unmoving. Kolig missed his shot, frightening Nalu off. Yet, he was determined not to abandon the chase and intended to track it down. As long as I can get one, I'm sure to secure the championship. It's just uncertain if I'll encounter Nalu again. Let's see what unfolds. Fans of Alone in the Wilderness get that beyond hunger, fishing is a big hit with contestants. Catching fish isn't as easy as magic for them. Snagging a big one feels like they're in a wild fishing competition. Each catch outdoes the previous, with some cleverly using their breakfast as bait, ensuring no meal goes to waste. Pretty clever, It's really killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Just look at that white, tender fish meat. Who wouldn't be tempted? Any fishing enthusiasts out there? Could we still join in? Maybe? Come the 3rd day, It's freezing outside. Tucker barely feels like moving in bed, almost doing his business there if not for the sleeping bag. Solely depending on a fire for warmth is a sure path to freezing. The priority now is constructing a new shelter before the harsher winter weather arrives. Nearby trees are showing yellow leaves. Time is running short. The land here is ideal for shelter construction. Tucker is confident his shelter will be cozy. He must first figure out its size before beginning to clear the surrounding area. The task at hand is hefty. Tucker has poured his initial energy into it, worried he'll tire before the shelter's complete. But if he can get the shelter done, it will undoubtedly be the warmest among all the participants. He dearly misses his younger brother, who a driver whisked away to another world. Solitude deepens his melancholy. Thus, it's vital to value time with family. Accidents are unpredictable, like when constructing a shelter now. Is it really necessary to clear such a large area? Meanwhile, Piers next door chooses to catch fish first, prioritizing food. Finding food will become tougher post-winter, so stocking up is wise. Piers is confident the production team's chosen spot will lure fish, but the water is just too shallow, isn't it? The mud at the bottom almost clogs the fishnet. Setting up the fishnet was a real struggle. Piers hopes for a catch tomorrow, despite the nearby grizzly bears. Confident in his shelter's safety, Piers begins to collect mushrooms and berries, eager to keep them from the bears. He also tries fishing with a line, clearly showing how hungry he is. Though he didn't catch any fish, he spotted some ducks, but despite wanting to hunt them with a bow and arrow, they were out of reach and retrieving any he might hit was impossible. Out of the blue, a sound came from the shore. Edging closer, finding ducks there too caught me off guard. I barely missed my shot, so now I need to fetch my arrow from the water. This teaches me not to hurry when uncertain. In the water for just a short time, I nearly froze. I must hurry and wear a fire-starting suit to get warm. By the 5th day of the challenge, Blake had made another table. Now, I can place my tools on it. Suddenly, I heard the call of a squirrel and immediately grabbed my bow and arrow, ready to hunt. I can't miss out on food that comes knocking at my door. Every problem has a solution. If not, just find another way. Blake quickly found a meal. The squirrel was lean, but delicious. I aim to keep its fur whole. I can take it home as a souvenir, make some of it into bait. The key to lasting until the end is to catch more fish. Despite having caught for squirrels, it didn't add much to my energy. Blake didn't want to waste them. I simply packed moss in and sealed it with fishing line. Why bother? Blake figures if it brings him joy, that's enough. Michaela's already in camo, crouched and on the lookout for ducks. Neither kids nor mimicking duck sounds seem to lure them in. Persisting in this manner won't work. I need to find a new spot. Constant hunger is bad, but what's happening here is even tougher. My only option is to keep moving along the shore. Without a new spot to fish, just the river won't sustain me till the end. Along the way, I did find some burdock. These roots are rich in carbohydrates and eating them makes me feel better. There weren't many, but I could boil them in water to eat, along with some berries. Having something to eat is already quite good. Peter's hard at work crafting fishing gear, aiming to maximize his resources. His body's in dire need of a fish to boost his energy. Once I catch a fish, it means I can do more with bait. Just one success gives me more confidence to complete the challenge. He's got a triple-pronged hook. Its perk, the fish gets snagged no matter where it bites. Following a few tweaks, it seems promising. Time to test it. I've fished in the wild since childhood. I always thought it was a fun thing to do, but coming here, it feels quite discouraging. Peter plans to cast it farther to see how it works. The spot's pretty far, yet the line runs smooth, no snags. Saw a bunch of fish close by, too. Today seems promising for fishing. It's becoming simpler to handle after a few attempts. At last, a fish bit, but escaped just before I could pull it in. It was large, perfect for a filling meal. Right then, I felt unstoppable. Catching a big fish daily would make getting through to spring easy. Pace, here for 6 days, feels it's high time his net snagged a fish, given his daily fishing lessons. Since getting here, Pace hasn't landed any fish. He wonders if his students knew, would they still attend his classes? Spotting birds by the fish net from afar, Pace took it as a hopeful sign of a catch. He was still a way off from the net. The fish's head was already poking out. I was thrilled. The catch looked pretty good, so I immediately picked it up. Hunger's not a concern lately. Catching a fish every couple of days boosts my confidence to make it through. Instead of a survival test, it feels like we're in a fishing competition, with everyone catching increasingly larger fish. I hurried to clean the fish. It's been a long time since I've had such juicy meat, so much that it couldn't all fit in the pot. I'll start by cooking half to taste it. While others might save it, I believe in eating my fill to keep it safe. Eating all the fish today is how I'll keep the food safe. Just gotta make sure I don't eat too much. Even without any seasoning, the fish tastes incredibly delicious. If I could eat a fish like this every day, settling down here wouldn't be so bad. Tucker is still busy building a shelter. The ground has been leveled. Now it's time to erect the support poles. They must be solid since more materials will be added. Tucker aims to avoid a collapse during sleep. Gathering and moving materials already consumed much time. He's confident in his building method, knowing it's crucial for winter survival. Plus, the online champs have impressive shelters he acknowledges. He wants to surpass them. Even if he doesn't win the prize money, Tucker's shelter is indeed large. Eager for its completion, I suddenly catch squirrel chatter and quickly snatch up my bow to attempt a shot. They munch away in the branches. Tucker wouldn't miss this opportunity. Instantly, Tucker caught a squirrel, feeling thrilled and even more sure about finishing his shelter. He also planned to use the squirrel meat for bait, aiming to snag a fish. Meanwhile, he'd enjoy some as a snack. It's been so long since he had this meat, it smelled incredibly good. He elegantly tore off a piece to taste. This is truly the best part of wilderness survival. Eating squirrel meat and enjoying the scenery. He really wished he could share this with his family. Tucker was very worried about his wife's health. Winning the prize meant more time with his wife. Post-squirrel meal, he went to inspect the fishing line. It appeared as though there was a struggle. Quickly yanking on the line, Tucker was amazed to find the squirrel meat had snagged a large fish. Tucker felt today was just fantastic. His quick thinking was quite impressive. Now he felt even more confident about making it to the end. He just wondered how the other contestants were doing. Next door, Peter had taken apart a parachute cord and woven it into a net, hoping to catch some fish. If he caught enough, he aimed to construct a smokehouse for the fish. Earlier, his fishing line snagged a large one, and his net also had a catch. A big fish was hanging there. After a busy time, Peter had caught quite a few fish. He wouldn't have to worry about going hungry this week. It seemed like he really had to build that smokehouse. He had been prepared for the worst, not expecting happiness to come so quickly. Now he had to hurry up and build it. There was still so much to do. He opted for the simplest version. All he needed to do was hang the fish. The only problem was the fear of attracting bears. No amount of fish would be enough for them. Once there was a lot of food, troubles followed. Peter thought covering it with moss might protect it. The end result seemed quite impressive. Peter also considered using something to keep bears away. Despite his exhaustion, he resolved to guard the smoking process all night to make sure it worked. Vernon also caught some fish and planned to check the rabbit traps before cooking. He already lived in a remote area. Daily, Vernon alternated between hunting in the wild and resting at home. This slightly tougher environment wasn't much of a departure from his usual nightly life. He set up 2 rabbit traps, ready to come back empty-handed, but unexpectedly, he actually caught a rabbit. And it looks quite big. Paired with fish, it's a perfect match. It would be even better if we could get a squirrel too. After resetting the traps, he dug a special hole for the birch bark to keep the firewood dry. The rabbit can also be put inside. I'll clean it properly tomorrow and eat it. I'll also check on Michaela's situation. The shelter needs to be reinforced every day. Currently, fruits hardly satisfy hunger. Despite the wilderness's challenges, staying positive is crucial. It feels like ages since I last caught a fish. I feel my body getting weaker by the day. I'm not eating much. If this continues, I'm afraid I won't make it through the week. I hope there are fish caught in the net. Otherwise, I won't be able to finish reinforcing the shelter. It'll be even harder to withstand the winter. I wonder if the fish sensed Michaela's desperate need and swam into the net on purpose. Just for this made Michaela ecstatic. It's been so long since she's seen such a plump, big fish, longer than her own arm. Hunger won't be a concern for a while now. Curious though, doesn't she fear the fish might wriggle out of her grasp and slip back into the lake? Currently, Michaela is fixated on the fish, almost ready to eat it on the spot. Preparing it is easy, just need to remove the gills and innards. The parts not eaten can also be used as bait. Michaela believes she can catch more fish in the future. Perhaps the thrill of the catch is making her queasy and eager to vomit. Michaela is puzzled about what's causing this. She threw up the morning's berries and burdock root, which she hopes might lure fish. Feeling somewhat relieved post-vomit, she presses on. She still needs to prepare and cook the fish, worried about vomiting again after eating the meat, but now she just has to endure the discomfort and continue. Planning to make a fish head soup first, if her body is okay, then try to eat some fish meat. Michaela also removed the fish bones and spines. The white meat seems delicious. Can anyone identify the fish they're having? I'm eager to catch one myself for a test. After Michaela's busy work, the fish is finally cleaned. Later, Uncle can make some food to fill the stomach. Peter, who's been around for 8 days and caught plenty of fish, is always on edge about bears. He's thinking of building a ladder to keep the food up high. It's not difficult to make, just need to cut a notch on top. It will be more stable when fixed, despite eating so much meat. Here, we have 14 hours of daylight, keeping me endlessly busy. I initially believed securing food would improve matters. Unexpectedly, an accident occurred. I never thought I'd injure an animal. I believe the wound isn't too severe. I thought it would be fine with some bandaging, so I continued with my work. I miss my son terribly. I wish I could go home now. Maybe it's the blood loss, but my head feels a bit dizzy. I endure the discomfort and assembled the ladder. The ladder turned out well, though I'm unsure if it'll help me catch food. Still, I wanted to do more. I checked the shore's fish lines. Earlier, a fish was caught, but it somehow got away. It seems I'm really too tired. Once I have enough food, I'll rest at 9. I don't want to exhaust myself. Today wasn't my lucky day. I didn't catch anything on 2 lines, and now only the last one remains. But still, I caught nothing. Yesterday's joy matches today's disappointment. Despite having meat recently, my appetite vanished after the injury. For some reason, I'm longing to be back home. Memories of my family flood in, and suddenly, I find myself crying. I feel I can't stay here any longer. I sit quietly by the shore, talking to the camera. Joining this challenge was mainly to see if my survival skills had improved. Indeed, I've done quite well, except for the injury. I've had good food and sleep. The only problem is I miss my family too much. I know I have a lot more to give. It would be a shame to leave now. I struggled with this decision for a long time. Ultimately, I dialed the crew. Surprising, isn't it? Peter, successful just yesterday, now opts to exit the challenge and return home. I truly believed he could have won. Now, Peter's mind is solely on getting back to his family. Maybe only those who've been in the challenge get this deep family yearning. The crew didn't expect Peter to leave so soon. Peter feels he's not ready yet. He hopes for a future invite from the crew once his resolve is firmer. Thus, we see another contestant exit the challenge. I wonder who among the remaining contestants will be favored. Let's wait and see. Buddies skilled in wilderness survival understand bow hunting is essential, yet landing a shot with 1 arrow is uncommon. Combining the meat with morels, his expression alone tells you it's a treat if fortune smiles. Fishing with a gill net lands you bigger catches each time. It feels less like survival and more like a wild feast. Anyone want to team up and go? The challenge is on day 8, and 8 contestants are still in the field. Let's check in on Blake. His neglected hair has left his scalp itching unbearably. He needs a thorough wash. Given the sparse conditions in the wild, he begins by dousing his hair with water. Washing your hair in this weather is really cold. He can only use some weeds as shampoo, continuously rubbing his hair. This effectively cleans out much dirt, but the downside is the unpleasant smell. If not for the need to retain his hair for warmth, he'd surely shave it all off before arriving, hoping his scalp is bug-free. Then, he cleans the hair below. We'll skip the specifics of what follows. Once tidied up, Blake's a lot comfier. Time to snag more fish for his meal. What he didn't expect was to see something moving as soon as he got there. There must be a fish on the hook. He can't let this meal escape. He carefully reels in the fishing line. Fortunately, the fish doesn't have much will to survive, easily pulling it to the shore. The fish's size is impressive. Blake, overjoyed, longs to take an immediate bite. Truly, after dispelling the misfortune, the food problem is solved. If he can keep this up, he's quite confident he can make it to the end. He quickly returns to cook the fish, thrilled by its size, though it's somewhat bony. He has to eat slowly, fearing it might get stuck in his throat. He loves the natural taste. It's incredibly tasty. He'd happily eat this daily, potentially outdoing the show's budget. At the same time, William constructs his shelter. Although it's a bit small, it's just right for him, fully capable of handling the winter environment. After resting enough, he still needs to build a fireplace, needing to get some clay from the shore. The only problem is the shelter is some distance from the shore. Every journey drains a lot of energy, so he aims to haul back plenty to plug the fireplace gaps. Following that, he'll ignite a fire for drying purposes. The fireplace's compactness is beneficial, as it means less firewood is needed at night. As long as nothing unexpected happens, I believe I'll be very comfortable. After a busy period, I can look for some food nearby. I prepared a long and thin stick, turning it into a simple hunting tool. Yet, it proves highly effective. Several grouse are nearby. William will demonstrate its use to all. First, pinpoint the target's location. Don't rush forward immediately. While it's not paying attention, sneak up from behind. When it enters the range of the snare, slowly place it around its neck. You must be patient during this process, or you'll easily startle and scare the grouse away. It's wise to wait until the grouse voluntarily puts its neck through. Like this, William was able to catch a grouse. It really tests your patience. I think using a bow and arrow would be quicker. William is thrilled. Plenty of grouse are still nearby, promising more future catches for meals. He's got a spot for storing food too. After stashing the grouse, he resumes his hunt, aiming to snag a few more for a hearty meal. William's skills are improving. Soon, he snagged another grouse. He could potentially deplete the local population at this pace. On the 9th day of the challenge, fishing wasn't going well, so he decided to upgrade his shelter. He added more leaves on top, hoping it would make it a bit warmer. Suddenly, seeing an owl excited him tremendously. He immediately grabbed his camera to take pictures. It's rare to see one awake during the day. He feels his luck is about to turn. Things are definitely going to get better. He went nearby to see what he could eat. For now, he's only found wild pea roots. Their taste isn't great, but they're filling. Yet, surviving on just these won't be sustainable. The key is whether there's meat to eat. Not only are there fish by the lake, but also carp. As long as he can catch one of them, he'll have bait to catch more food. Suddenly hearing something moving, Salah carefully observed and found a grouse in the tree. He immediately picked up his bow and arrow and approached slowly. Before it could react, he took it down with a single arrow, making Salah extremely happy. He hadn't seen meat in ages. Quickly, he brought it to the lake for cleaning. The innards would soon serve as bait. I'm confident this will lure in fish. Things are looking up. Eating the grouse is now our top priority. Combined with mushrooms and wild peas, it's even tastier. The meat's flavor exceeds my expectations. If only I could catch something every day. Salah feels quite hopeful. Let's see what Blake is up to. He crafted a basic rack, perfect for smoking meat and drying wood. Time to gather resources now. After winter comes, things might get a bit easier. I'm starting to miss my family. It's hard work every day here. Every part of me aches. I anticipated challenges, but the reality has surpassed my expectations. Right now, all I yearn for is to return and be with my wife. Even though I keep myself busy, the feeling of missing her hasn't lessened. Now, she just wants to find a place to rest. The passage of time is unclear. Blake shows up on camera, grouse in hand. It marks her inaugural grouse hunt. It's a pity it wasn't recorded. It took me 4 or 5 tries to get it right. Blake thinks it was really not easy. I'm unsure why my stomach's been upset. Hoping the grouse I eat helps. After a simple preparation, I put it directly into the pot. The weight made me feel worse. I don't know if I've caught something. Besides the pain, I also have a bit of a fever. Although he really wants to eat this grouse, his body feels terrible. He has no appetite for meat at all. Standing up feels slightly better. Salah has been here for 10 days. Only now did he remember to hang up the photos. It's not a family photo, but sketches from his grandkids. Salah worries seeing family pictures might stir a longing for home. This drawing's quite nice. It lifts my spirits. It's not often I have bait. He plans to craft some gorge hooks. Then, he'll place them on a long line in the lake. Hopefully, he'll catch a big fish. Although they're called hooks, they're actually arrows on both ends. After a fish takes it, escaping isn't easy. This method could outperform traditional hooks. Grouse calls are a common sound. Had I not been inclined to fish, I'd have sought the grouse with my bow for a chat. In my youth, work always kept me occupied, troubled by family chores, but immersing myself in nature has relaxed me a lot. Although life here is a bit hard, I really enjoy this challenge, growing continuously in adversity. If possible, I hope to invite my family here. Everyone ought to see this landscape. Our dog's been a huge help, ready to fish in the water, just uncertain if the bait will work. Originally, the bait was wrapped in spruce branches, but it disappeared overnight. That really frustrated Sarah. Without bait, how can we catch fish? Do we have to spare some of our meat? Right now, it's a real dilemma, feeling like there's no good move. I can only pick up a bow and arrow to look for grouse, hoping to hunt another one. Although I didn't see any animals, I unexpectedly found some porcini mushrooms. The amount and size are good enough. These ensure we won't starve for the time being, giving me a slight boost in morale. Shortly after, I stumbled upon more. It appears fortune still favors me. I must continue to endure. The camera shifts to Blake, whose condition hasn't gotten better. He's troubled by something he can't identify. For now, I'll just eat some meat to ease it. I made a bowl that doesn't taste very good, but it's barely swallowable. This makes me feel even worse. Now, walking's become a struggle. Seems like I've caught some bug. Hunger and cold I can handle, but this is unbearable, and I haven't had a bowel movement in 10 days. I really should have called for a doctor sooner. Delaying only worsens my state, though possibly my sole opportunity. Withdrawing is unavoidable. I hope to get to the hospital for a checkup soon. The production team didn't realize how serious it was. Blake doesn't want to wait until he's carried out. While I still have the strength to walk, I'll go back and recuperate. This challenge has been incredibly now, it's uncertain who will win the prize money. It's really a pity. If Blake hadn't had health issues, he would probably have secured more food and could have stayed longer in the shelter. With Blake's departure, now 7 contestants remain, eager to see their day 11 performance in the challenge. William shifts to soak up the sun, relishing its warmth. I wonder, doesn't he feel cold doing so? William explains it dries him off, not for pleasure, but to wait out the cold. He went up the mountain to check on some things and suddenly realized his stash had been raided. All the food was gone, leaving only a pile of feathers. William recalled that in the wilderness, your stomach is the safest storage. Things looked grim. He had to start looking for food again. Looking at Jack, even though he had eaten quite a bit, he still felt very hungry. He aimed to gather enough meat to satisfy his hunger. Sadly, he lost the fish and had to clean up, then venture into deeper waters. Now, he really missed his family. It was too lonely here, and everything felt somewhat lost. His spirits lifted a bit when he found food, and he was hopeful about fishing in a new area. Despite being in the wild, he still had to wash his clothes. Boiling them in a cooking pot was the easiest method. Given it was all for personal use, being overly fussy wasn't necessary. Simply wait for the water to boil. Usually a minute or two suffices, unless the unforeseen occurs. Jack hadn't anticipated the scalding. In the wild, such wounds risked serious infection. Had he anticipated the outcome, he wouldn't have proceeded with washing. Now filled with regret, he quickly sought to treat the unexpectedly severe wound. He now needed to keep it dry. Bow and arrow use was impossible. He wished for a swift recovery of his hand, which appeared to have never been injured before. Staying till the end seemed unlikely. I figured Jack would have to leave early. His mood was already sour. Now, his mood had dipped even lower, yearning to return home for a family embrace. He sensed his continual errors here. Perhaps he wasn't cut out for this. Yet, by day 12, Craig remained upbeat, taking a moment to appreciate the surrounding landscape. Craig was eager to hunt a deer, knowing that catching big game often meant victory. He figured it was worth a shot. Even a smaller deer would suffice for a month's meals. True, deer had been spotted close by, yet they vanished swiftly. He had no choice but to settle for wings, hoping to fill his stomach. He had trained specifically for this before coming. As long as there were fish in the river, he was confident he could catch them. Today happened to be his child's birthday. He hoped this attempt would bring good luck. He joined the challenge primarily for his kids, aiming for their joy. Also, to demonstrate to them. In survival, one would encounter many difficulties. One must learn to persevere and overcome. He was here to set an example. He wished the editor would save more quality clips for the show. Despite not catching anything so far, his first choice was to attempt fishing. Given the dwindling daylight, Craig had already arranged several fishing lines, hoping to snag at least one fish. The next second, I saw he had a fish in his hand. He was so busy catching fish, he forgot to turn on the camera. He was in a great mood. Landing a big fish means a long-lasting food supply. Catching another on a separate line was a shock. Seems my kid's birthday wishes are magic. I'll have a good meal tonight. However, when I woke up the next day, I found myself bleeding. I didn't know what went. I hope this won't attract bears. Luckily, the bleeding stopped. No problems for now. Next, I need to build a shelter. The weather will get colder after winter sets in. I need to prepare in advance. The trees nearby are quite suitable. I plan to make a sloped roof. While smaller ones would be easier, I lean towards the bigger ones for their durability. At least that's what I tell myself. However, my regret kicked in once I began shifting them. It was truly laborious and time-consuming. Finally, the shelter's frame is done. Next is to fill in the gaps and then move in. Although my brother left us years ago, I've always missed him. I feel like he's here encouraging me. The more I think about it, the more it hurts. Once in such a quiet environment, you start to think a lot. No matter how hard I work, I can't escape it. I hope everything will get better. Look at my castle. Jack's hand is pretty bad. Most of the work can't be done smoothly. It'll take at least a week. Looking at this bandage, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. Now, fish are all I've got for food, but they say luck turns around, right? Just snagged 2 with the net, didn't I? Oh, and 2 more. Provided my hand recovers, I've got a shot at finishing this. Things will look up. Time to build a rack for smoking the fish now. Setting it up wasn't hard, but my injured hand slowed me down. After all the hustle, I finally got to eat fish. Even without any seasoning, Jack felt it tasted better than anything. While eating, he couldn't help but feel how tough he had it. By the 14th day, Craig enjoyed fish for breakfast and his shelter was nearly complete. Things were unfolding quite well for me. Suddenly, it seemed like something was approaching. He was quite annoyed. Despite the owl's disturbance, he was sure it was a deer. Do you think Craig will be able to hunt it? Let's wait and see. While others are still struggling with food, this man has achieved flesh and blood freedom. Just this big piece of flesh. You can already make a lot of smoked jerky, plus there's still a pile in storage. Can we just declare this year's champion now? Let's take a look at how he does it. It's the 14th day of the challenge, and Kolig is busy hunting Tulu. The distance between the two sides is less than 50 meters, and it depends on whether he can grasp the opportunity and hit Tulu's lungs directly. Kolig could hear the sound of bubbles, which proved that Toro's lungs were getting into the air, and he must not have survived. And sure enough, he didn't run far and collapsed. Kolegna grinned. Fans of Alone in the Wilderness know the significance of this move. He was sure he'd win the prize this time. No one else would bag a moose, right? Better hurry and process it. Kolig declared himself the winner of this round, hoping he wouldn't regret it. The moose was much larger than he had anticipated. Shifting those antlers is tiring. He's already planning to call his family to celebrate and decide how to spend the prize money. This moose must still weigh over 1,000 pounds, even without the inedible parts. They won't need to worry about food for at least the next month and a half. First, we need to gut the moose to keep the meat from spoiling. It's Craig's first moose hunt. It's taking longer than expected. The workload is much bigger than I thought. There's no way we'll finish it today. He was going to cut most of the meat first, but he was still worried that he would attract the grizzly bear, so he had to light a fire here. I hope to cover up the smell of blood in the moose tonight. I'm going to cut and roast the meat like this. Look at the legs that are bigger than his body. It's going to be delicious to make ham, and the temperature isn't very good right now, so you have to cut the meat in a hurry. Otherwise, the meat will spoil fast. Kolig won't sleep tonight. He has to process the moose and watch for any attacks. The task was quite heavy, but getting so much meat made it all worthwhile. Now he just hopes the temperature drops soon. I was able to take a little rest, and after a few hours, I was able to cut the top half. The rest can wait until tomorrow. Now he has to haul the processed meat back, making several solo trips. He worked tirelessly into the night before he could rest. Craig was worn out, but still had to watch for nearby black bears. He didn't want to give away the meat he had. Next, he planned to build a better shelter and prepare a place to store the meat. There was a lot to handle. On day 15 of the challenge, Michaela realized something was off. Her foot suddenly started hurting. For now, she could only keep it dry with charcoal and hope it would get better. She hurried to check the traps. She was quite confident in the spot she had chosen, having spent a lot of time on them. The traps were set along animal paths, and she had seen many rabbit tracks. She also placed food they liked around the traps. In theory, her traps should catch a lot, but in reality, there was nothing. She could only hope for a surprise today. She was worried that if she continued to go hungry, her body wouldn't hold up. She considered setting more traps. The bait worked, but she still didn't catch anything. Frustrated, Michaela headed back to the shelter to rest. Suddenly, she spotted a squirrel in a tree. Grabbing her bow and arrow, she crept closer, hoping it hadn't sensed the threat. Although her first shot missed, the squirrel didn't run away, giving Michaela another chance. Unfortunately, she missed again. With traps failing and poor archery, things looked bleak. The place was hostile, and the pressure kept increasing daily. If this went on, she'd have to quit the challenge eventually. The only good news was that she retrieved her arrows. She hoped to encounter another squirrel soon, as she desperately needed food. Meanwhile, Craig had to deal with the remaining meat today. It was starting to smell, and he didn't dare leave it out for another day. He lost track of time, but eventually got the meat moved. The crows were drawn to it, and he wondered why no one hunted them for food. Today's main task was to build a storage shed. His body was exhausted, but he couldn't afford to rest. He didn't have much time left. If he could get through these few days, he would have plenty of time to rest and eat meat. The weather was still quite hot. This spot was a bit cooler, so he planned to store the meat here until he finished smoking it. Although the project was huge, it was worth it for the safety of the food. He hurried to chop wood and build the shed. He wished for cooler weather, fearing that without a hearty meal, he'd collapse from exhaustion. Given the current intensity, I can barely hold on. The storage is almost done. Will it withstand a bear? I doubt it's very useful. Craig layered branches inside and placed the meat piece by piece. He then added more branches, repeating the process until all the meat was in place. Heavy snowfall now would be ideal. The bear likely won't dig from the top, so it should be safe. Craig just wants to go back, lie down, and gnaw on some meat. The last couple of days have been rough. The camera moves to Jack, who mostly lies on the rocks, mainly because he accidentally injured his bone. Now he can't lift anything too heavy and has to wait for it to heal. I doubt Jack will make it. Hurt and low on food, it's amazing he's lasted this long. He plans to check the fish net first. Today, he was quite lucky, catching 2 fish in a row, which instantly lifted his spirits. The only problem is that bending over hurts. If the fish were any heavier, he couldn't bring them ashore. No one saw such a big fish coming. It even had another fish in its mouth, which was amazing. He quickly took them out to process. It's been ages since he saw a 2-for-1 deal. The fish kept biting and wouldn't release. It seemed really stubborn. After some shaking, he finally freed it. He plans to cook them all in one pot later. With this kind of luck daily, Jack believes he could keep going a bit longer. Fishing is way better than hunting squirrels. He should focus on it more, aiming to catch a fish daily. It's a shame there's nothing to go with the fish. He'd love to make fish and chips, and the thought makes his mouth water. Things will get better from here. Meanwhile, Pace is busy making a chimney. It works, but the shelter is a bit shabby. The nights are freezing cold. He keeps adding materials, hoping it will help him sleep better. Despite Pace's ongoing efforts, the end result remains rough. He's concerned it could collapse and injure someone. The biggest problem now is food. They need to stockpile enough food before winter, as it will be harder to find food later. Spruce branches are added for insulation, then a layer of cattail. This will make the shelter cozier. Now it looks like a turtle shell. Pace thinks it can even block a bear and is very warm. The only downside is that he can only walk slowly. Now let's look at Tucker. People might wonder how the contestants brush their teeth. They brought toothbrushes, but usually use saliva to brush. If conditions improve, they chew charcoal. Although it doesn't taste great, it cleans well. I recommend everyone try it. Now he needs to continue building the shelter. It's a huge project. This is definitely the best shelter among all the contestants. Cutting and moving materials is time-consuming. Now he has to stack stones and fill them with mud for a fireplace. To ensure sparks don't ignite the shelter, he uses wooden stakes as a barrier. Actually, Tucker isn't very good at building. It's just that his nieces and nephews wanted to see him build a big house, so he made it this big. The fireplace is coming along well, but who knows how it'll end up. He's been so busy he hasn't had time to eat. He can't recall his last meal, and his body grows weaker daily. He sleeps just to conserve energy. At night, he frequently hears wolves howling. Tucker sleeps lightly, fearing he'll wake up to a wolf's jaws. His sleep quality is poor. Once the shelter is done, things should improve. It's the 16th day of the challenge. Tucker feels exhausted and hungry. The wolves seem like they never sleep, always howling. Maybe he should consider hunting them. I wonder why he doesn't get food. He spends all day on the shelter. Isn't he worried about collapsing from exhaustion? Seeing the frame, you can tell the shelter is decent, but the nearby trees are thin. If they were thicker, it would look better and be sturdier. Now Tucker needs to collect more poles. His building speed isn't fast. When it rains, it's really annoying. He can only cover it with a tarp. The shelter is looking more and more decent. Tucker is so happy he's dancing. He thinks he can move in a day or two. Meanwhile, Michaela just brought down a bird's nest. Sadly, there were no eggs, but it's useful for fire starting. On the bright side, she found churro fur inside. If she manages to hunt one, she'll have enough food for a month. She might even survive until the end, but with her archery skills, I doubt she'll catch anything. Michaela plans to reinforce her shelter. Right now, it's just a simple frame. If the wind gets any stronger, it might blow away, so we're using trees as windbreaks. This way, we can also get some sunlight to warm up. It's a good idea, but it's physically exhausting. After a bit, I'm out of breath. The space is small, but as long as it stays warm, the shelter is totally worth it. I used to play in the jungle as a kid, and now it feels like I'm back in those days. I feel much younger. He loves traveling and adventuring, hoping to win the prize money and then travel the world. He craves new experiences, so despite his exhaustion, he keeps pushing himself. The tranquility of nature makes Michaela feel at ease, unlike the oppressive city. After some busy work, we gathered a lot of wood. Then, we spotted a marten chasing a rabbit and decided to follow it. Michaela scared off the marten, leaving us with a free meal. I wondered if a marten-bitten rabbit was safe to eat. Would be safe to eat. Michaela didn't care. As long as it's cooked, it's fine. We quickly dealt with the rabbit. It wasn't very big, so if you want the fur intact, you have to be gentle. In no time, Michaela had a perfect rabbit pelt. He thought it was easy, saying anyone could do it. If you don't believe it, give it a try. To check if the rabbit is healthy, you look at its liver. After checking, you can start preparing the meat. After some time, we finally got to eat the rabbit. It tasted better than expected, though it had little fat. Our bodies are getting weaker, so we need to find some fish. The rabbit meat tastes like chicken. Michaela was very happy. The camera then showed Pace, who was watching the fish in the water. He had some bait and was trying to catch a fish. He cast the line as far as he could, given the makeshift tools. Fishing this way took more effort, and the bait was less effective than expected. The fish didn't bite at all. He was so hungry, he joked about roasting himself. If this continues, he won't last much longer. Pace kept trying, hoping nature would gift him a fish. But reality was harsh. He spent a lot of time fishing with no success. Ultimately, he had to seek fortune in other spots. I must admit, Pacey's attitude is commendable. Even if he returns empty-handed daily, he still insists on fishing. Meanwhile, Craig has an abundance of moose meat and eats until his stomach. Now, even his burps reek of meat. The only problem is the scavenging birds trying to snatch his food. Craig figures he doesn't even need a bow and arrow. He simply grabs a stick and rushes at them. If those birds weren't so fast, he'd have a different kind of meat tonight. While the meat is mostly intact, the moose hide is nearly destroyed. If this keeps up, the meat will be gone too. He has to start cooking the fat, which is even more precious than the meat. Craig decides to make some containers. After processing the fat, he keeps it separate and adds it to the meat daily, helping his body recover better. The best idea he has is to pour the processed fat into containers made of tree bark. It looks beautifully cooked. He doesn't have to worry about leaks. Now, he needs to thinly slice the meat for smoking and drying, making it easier to handle. Craig didn't expect that after hunting the moose, he would become even busier. To win the prize money, it's not just about having food and enduring hunger. He has to put effort into everything. He doesn't want to waste time on the scavenging birds. The meat belongs in his stomach. He no longer misses his family. He's too focused on slicing meat. He'd be perfect for a barbecue restaurant. His shelter is already filled with hanging meat. Just looking at the ceiling, Craig feels like he's already won. Next, he needs to build a fire to dry the meat. Just smelling it makes him quite satisfied. Now he can go eat the meat cooking in the pot with no seasoning added. The natural flavor of the meat is enough. He never gets tired of eating it every day. The challenge has reached day 17. Pacey has totally given up. The smoke is intolerable. If he stays longer, he'll become smoked meat himself. He continues to try catching fish. The best method now is to set a trap and check it daily. Setting a trap is definitely more efficient. He always dreamed of being a fisherman, but after arriving here, he struggles to catch even a single fish. Winning the prize would mean buying a big boat and catching plenty of fish. Otherwise, he'll have to sell the trash he picks up to cover his fare home. Everything is ready. Let's see if any fish are biting. Suddenly, I felt a tug on the line and quickly reeled it into check. To my surprise, there was actually a fish on the hook. It was a decent size. Finally, I can have some fish again. I hurried to clean it up. I'm not sure when the lake will freeze, so I need to gather as much food as I can. Hopefully, the fresh bait will work. Just as I said that, the trap was triggered. I didn't expect fishing to be this easy. This one is even bigger than the last. Thanks, Mother Nature. Pacey's confidence is back. Let's see how many more he can catch before winter. The camera moves to Michaela. While getting water, she spotted a family of swans. She wishes they could end up in her stomach. Now, she's desperate to eat anything she can find. Hunting pine trees seems like her best option. The traps can be simple. Just set a snare on a wooden pole. Even so, she feels it's too hard. She wonders if it's worth continuing. Michaela really wants to go home now. Her mood is getting worse and worse. The stress made her break down and cry. She could have quit earlier, but she wanted to hold on for one more day. On the 18th day, she caught another fish in the net. However, she didn't feel the excitement she expected and let the fish go. It's clear Michaela has completely given up. She no longer wants to endure the hardship. She called the crew right away, feeling unhappy here. The money no longer matters. She just wants to go home and rest. With Michaela gone, only 6 participants remain. I wonder who people are rooting for now. Folks claim this season's alone contestants are tough, easily reeling in 15-foot fish. Check out this guy, he just landed a big one. He wanted to show off his catch on camera, but it got awkward. First, handle the fish properly. Display it to the camera once you're back on shore. Now everyone knows how to flaunt their catch. It's day 19 of the challenge. Only 6 contestants are left. Craig has so much smoked meat that he has to pack it and store it in the cabinet. His beard hasn't been trimmed in ages. Using a knife is too dangerous, so he tries using an arrowhead. Wow, he's clearly not worried about cuts or infections. Craig prefers it over a razor. Another ruggedly handsome day for him. He's planning to make a bed for his shelter. Even though he has a lot of meat, he still feels weaker and weaker. He's worried about collapsing from exhaustion. He has a pile of smoked meat for winter and a very safe shelter. In theory, as long as he keeps his pace, he has a good chance of winning this challenge. So Craig's strategy is to do the bare minimum to conserve energy. Yet, there's still plenty to tackle daily, like chopping, carrying, and storing firewood, or fetching water from the shore to boil. All of this makes Craig feel exhausted, so he hopes to build a bed to get better rest. If he doesn't hunt a caribou, he really can't keep up this energy drain for 3 weeks. He's already figured out the bed structure, now he just needs to stack logs on it. Craig feels it's really tough for him. Working all day long, all alone here, he can only talk to the camera. Staying here for too long really messes with your mind. His mood suddenly drops. Craig doesn't know why he suddenly feels a bit unwell. It's probably the alternating hot and cold. He's just afraid things will get worse. If the caribou meat isn't finished, he might have to give up and go home, making the caribou hunt pointless. Now, let's check on Pace next door. He's busy with firewood, having already stockpiled enough to keep warm every night. Pace knows the wood is crucial and dedicates a lot of time to it daily. His stomach has been growling for a while. It's time to check the fishing net by the shore. So far, food resources seem plentiful, but his harvest isn't much. I'm concerned about not storing enough food before winter. When this place freezes, the fish will be long gone. Catching fish will be impossible then. I can only last 2 weeks before my body fails. I should check the net first. Sadly, the net was empty, which made me feel really down. He thought fishing was just too hard. Maybe hunting would be simpler. Just then, there was a stir in the water. Could this rod have caught a fish? Pace quickly began reeling in the line, realizing the fish was larger than he thought and might break the line. Pace carefully reeled it in, avoiding any sudden moves. After a long struggle, he finally caught the fish. It was probably longer than his arm. Pace was overjoyed and made sure to show it off in front of the camera. However, no one expected the fish to slip away. The smile didn't disappear, it just moved to our faces. Pace resolved to handle the fish right away from now on. His brief moment of showing off had backfired quickly. I have to say, the fish this season have a strong will to survive. Even when caught, they don't give up. Pace would have to go back and endure hunger again today. He could already picture his friends and family teasing him once the video aired. It was inevitable. He had to compose himself and continue fishing. Meanwhile, the camera moved to Jack, who was crafting something with a pipe. He just needed to bake it in the fire. It was like welding clay into ceramics, not too difficult to make. It was done in no time. The pipe turned out better than expected, though it could only hold some weeds for a quick fix. It proved that even in the wilderness, there are ways to deal with a smoking habit. Today's main task was to finish the shelter. The nearby trees were perfect for materials and easy to transport. He stripped off as much bark as he could. Unlike on Mars, it wouldn't catch fire easily. Next, he just had to cover it with branches. If he added enough layers, the cold wind would stay out. He then placed the waterproof cloth on top. Then he could go fishing and hope for a good catch today. There were no fish in the net. He had to depend on his fishing skills, but without the right hooks, the fish would likely escape. I'm not sure we'll catch enough fish before the lake freezes. Jack's tried multiple times, but hasn't had much luck. In the end, even the line got snapped. To retrieve it, I had to get into the water. Staying in such cold water for long is very dangerous. Jack feels much more alert now. If possible, he really doesn't want to experience this again. He quickly went to the fire to warm up. Jack feels he has a lot to do, and his tailbone and abdomen are constantly in pain. He's thinking about going home. It's tough to keep going, and his digestion is a mess. He hasn't had a normal bowel movement in a long time. If this continues, his body will really break down. If only he could get some food to eat. At this moment, he deeply misses his family, wondering how they're doing and wishing he could hug them. For now, he resorts to eating weeds, hoping to soothe his stomach. It's the 20th day of the challenge. Today, William had a great harvest, catching several fish. He also cooked some tree roots, though they didn't taste very good. But they are good for digestion and provide energy. Just eating meat isn't enough. In wilderness survival, maintaining nutritional balance is crucial. He's now heading out to gather wild berries for dessert. He gathers as many berries as he can before winter. Suddenly, he spots movement in a tree. It's a martin. If hunting them were legal, he'd have shot it with his bow and eaten it. He just hopes it doesn't raid his shelter for food. He hurried to check and was shocked to find the martin had eaten the fish. Unbelievable. Does it think nature just handed it a meal? Is the half-eaten fish still safe to eat? William fears the martin might return for more and must find a way to secure his food. He's really upset after losing a week's worth of food. The pressure is overwhelming. He never thought food would be his biggest issue. He must find a way to safeguard his food from the animals that love to steal. If he doesn't, no matter how much food he stores, it won't be enough. Suddenly, he sees some movement by the shore. To his surprise, the old man caught a fish. It's quite a big one, perfect for storing in the stomach. His mood instantly improved. William decides to eat sparingly and hang the rest in a bag to prevent theft. Wondering if it will start to smell, William decides hanging it on a tree should work. It probably won't get stolen, right? I believe he's more focused on caretaking than survival. How could it not get eaten? It's now day 21 of the challenge. Jack's mental state is stable, but he's anxious about today's medical checkup. He's worried he might be forced to withdraw. Given his serious health issues, Jack hopes the checkup goes smoothly. He really doesn't want to quit. Given his expertise, he could easily endure another 2 or 3 months. The other contestants share his concern. None of them want a medical checkup to force them out. Rapid weight loss is a concern, and the upcoming checkup could lead someone to quit. The show's team is visiting each contestant now. The contestants have shed significant weight. They're also asked about any discomfort they're experiencing to ensure their health. The contestants are open about their physical issues, mostly related to breathing and abdominal problem. The doctors will use this to assess the contestants' conditions. If it's too bad, they'll discuss it with the show's team. They don't want contestants to push through just for the prize money. The contestants anxiously await the results. After some discussion, Jack's condition is the most severe. He needs to go to the hospital for a full checkup. If Jack remains, he risks an intestinal blockage that could cause perforation or a severe infection. When Jack hears the news, he's crushed. He hopes the show's team will give him a few more days, thinking his health might improve. The doctor understands it's tough to accept, but Jack's condition is severe. Staying another day could worsen things, even though Jack is aware of this. He might have to withdraw because of the medical checkup, but hearing it for real is tough. He's at a loss. He's emotionally shattered. After venting his feelings, Jack finally accepts the forced withdrawal. He feels he didn't perform well in this challenge. He's far from his goal. He hopes he'll have another chance to come back. Surprisingly, just 21 days in, half the contestants have already dropped out. Everyone believes the conditions are too tough, or maybe this batch of contestants is too weak. Anyway, we hope Jack recovers soon. Let's see how the remaining contestants are doing. The camera shifts to Sarah. She's busy making bait out of bones, thinking it will definitely catch some fish. Suddenly, she sees birds raiding her shelter for food. With so little to eat, this really frustrates her. Sarah just wants to check the long line by the river. She hopes to catch a fish. Her energy is draining fast, and without protein soon, she won't last. On her way, she suddenly sees a grouse. Sarah quickly shifts her focus to tracking it, confident in her archery skills. Although she can hear the bird calls, she can't see them. Just as she's about to give up, she spots one in a tree. She swiftly aims and fires, but misses slightly. Luckily, the grouse just flies to a nearby tree. Sarah takes another shot, but her aim is worse. Even the crows seem to mock her. She has no other choice. She goes to the riverbank to check for fish. The challenge has been tough. She's barely had any meat. Her strength is fading, and she's anxious about failing the next medical check and having to leave. She must find more bait. She thinks back to the days with her family and wonders how they are doing. Surviving in the wild is tough. At her age, not many people believed she could win. Her family was also very concerned about her health. Sarah was determined to tackle this extreme challenge, but it's proving tougher than she expected. Now, she regrets coming. She regrets not letting someone else take her place. She had assured her family that she would notify the show and leave if she felt unwell. Now she's not sure if her emotional breakdown means she should go home. Talking to the camera alone feels really awkward. Sarah's mood is getting lower and lower. She keeps doubting her abilities. If those who left earlier saw her now, they'd surely feel conflicted. Surviving in the wild long term is tough for most, affecting both body and mind. Sarah tries to adjust her emotions. What she needs most now is a small victory. If she can just get some food, she can continue the challenge. On the 22nd day of the challenge, the camera shifts to Tucker. He has put all his energy into building the shelter. Lying inside, he feels a great sense of accomplishment. He believes this shelter is the best. As long as he can get enough food, Tucker thinks he can definitely win the prize. He hasn't rested much lately and is puzzled by his chest pain. He's concerned that if it persists, it could become a serious issue. So next, he decides to wash his clothes. He hasn't washed his underwear in a week. The smell could probably knock out a fish. Now there's another issue. I'm dehydrated. Despite drinking lots of water daily, I still feel very thirsty. I can only use the lighter a few times, so gathering more book covers will make things easier. Tucker has no idea how the others are making their shelters. Some might think it's pointless, but he just wants to build a nice one. That way, when his family comes over, they can sit inside and chat. Man, it's not even a month yet. He's already dreaming about winning the prize, which is great, but I'm concerned his body might not last. After all, he burns more energy than the others. Tucker longs for the days with his family. He wonders how they're doing now. He wants to find some food to celebrate finishing the shelter, but hasn't found anything on his way. Tucker was about to head back to the shelter when he found an old net. It was probably left by a previous contestant. With a bit of work, it could definitely be used. This is crucial for Tucker, saving him a lot of time on weaving. The sooner he fixes it, the sooner he can set it up to catch fish before winter. Now let's see how Pace is doing. Today has been rough. Breaking his glasses was unexpected and frustrating for anyone who wears them. The worst part is, Pace will need to spend money on new glasses later. For now, he's using tree branches to fix them, or he won't even see a chicken at his feet. Even though Pace glued the frame, it still seems fragile. He'll need to tie it with paracord to test its strength. Finally, he added a resin layer. It looks odd, but if it holds up until the end, it's good enough. The camera shifts to Sarah. Her hair is really long, and she loses a bunch of it every day. It's mostly because of poor nutrition. She worries she'll be bald by the end of the challenge. If she'd known, she would have brought a comb. Sarah isn't very used to the camera and often forgets to change the batteries. Like just now, she didn't record catching 2 grouse. She hopes the editor won't mind. She needs to clean the grouse quickly. Scalding them with hot water would make plucking easier. For now, she has to pluck them one by one. She hopes to make more bait to attract more animals to the traps. It's the 23rd day of the challenge. Tucker feels amazing. He can't believe he's been here for 23 days. Soon, he'll use the wings to catch fish. The shelter is great. He stays warm at night. He wishes the other contestants could see it. Tucker's mood is improving so much, you'd think he's about to win. First, he checks on the fish and crabs, but the results are disappointing. He probably needs new bait. Tucker relies on the spiked net, confident it will catch fish once finished, but his chest pain returns. He wonders if eating more and resting would help. Tucker works for a long time and finally gets the net ready. Now he just needs to cut a branch from a cloud tree. He thought it would be easy, but his heart races as he carries it. He feels like he can hardly breathe. Do you think Tucker can keep going? Let's wait and see. The contestants this season are truly impressive. The fish they catch keep getting bigger. Check out this pike. It's longer than my leg. Once processed, smoking and storing the fish is ideal. Traps are also used to catch rabbits, but they aren't very fatty. But once cooked, the meat is delicious and never gets old. You can also grind grass seeds into flour. This way, you can enjoy fresh bread in the morning. But be careful, too much food can attract animals. If your neighbor is a bear, how do you think you should get along? The challenge has reached day 23. Only 5 contestants remain. The camera shifts to Tucker, who suddenly feels severe chest pain. This is not good news. He starts considering withdrawing from the challenge. He mainly came here for his kids. If his body fails, no prize money will make his family happy. His heart condition worries him. Now he's very anxious, taking deep breaths to calm down. Seeing birds overhead, he thinks it might be time to quit. He immediately calls the show's producers. They didn't expect another withdrawal so soon. This might be the fastest season to end. Tucker feels confident in his survival skills, but his body is failing him. Otherwise, he might have made it to the end. Sadly, there's no what if. Tucker must leave the challenge. He wonders how the other contestants are doing, hoping they can last longer. Now, only 4 contestants remain. Let's check on Craig. Although he hunted a moose, he's not feeling well. Another moose appears nearby. Craig is torn about whether to hunt it, worried his body can't handle the effort. As he hesitates, the moose runs away. He decides to finish eating the meat he has first, grateful for nature's bounty that has kept him going. A cup of coffee would hit the spot. Time to get back to work and focus on the challenge. He plans to improve his shelter, making his bed more comfortable so he can sleep better at night. Lying on it, he feels much better. He also needs to gather more firewood. Although he has enough food, his body is getting more and more tired. Even handling a few pieces of wood injured his nails. Luckily, he had gloves to cushion the impact, or the injury would have been worse. He quickly treats the wound. If the wound gets infected, it won't be a simple matter. He tried placing some mountain leaves on the wound. This should help block some bacteria. I need to stay focused, otherwise, it's easy to make things worse. Waiting a bit might improve the effect. He felt his body was definitely sick. This never happened before. I need to adjust my plan, allocate more time for rest, and try to stay relaxed. I believe if I keep this up, my condition won't worsen. But Craig didn't know that. The wreckage drew in a bear. They'll cross paths soon enough. Now, let's check on William. He collected food while walking, making use of everything he found. Even a bottle could be used as a urinal. No more waking up cold at night. Time to check the fish net. Catching more big fish would be awesome. But there was nothing in the net. William thought his setup was fine, but wondered where all the fish went. Winter was approaching, and he had so little food. He feared he might end up fainting from hunger and being carried home. No choice. He had to eat the last fish and figure out how to stock up on food tomorrow. Watching the crows circling above, William worried they might steal his food. On the way back, he set up rabbit traps, hoping for some surprises. He set up about 7 or 8 traps. Surely one would catch a rabbit. William didn't even waste the leftover broth. The fat was so delicious, but it was gone too soon. On the 24th day of the challenge, the camera turned to Pace. He seemed in good spirits, though it was freezing and raining outside. He hurried to check the fish net. Luckily, the rain wasn't too heavy, so he could still check the traps. From a distance, he saw a fish had drowned. Thanking nature for its gift, he could enjoy a hearty meal and not worry about food for at least 3 days. The fish was enormous. He struck it with a stick. Catching 10 of these would be more thrilling than hunting a moose. He quickly cleaned the fish. He wondered if anyone else had caught such a big one. If possible, he would smoke it for storage. Life was getting better, though he feared attracting a black bear. Pace believes that being cautious will keep animals away from his food. The smoking process is exceeding his expectations. Even if I don't catch a moose, the fish should last until the end. For now, I just need to sit by the fire and keep it going. It'll take until morning to finish smoking. I need to watch it all night and stay hydrated. The silence around here is a bit eerie. Suddenly, I think I see something. Turns out it's a moose. If I could hunt it, we all know how that would end. Pace swiftly considers ways to boost his chances of a successful hunt. Spotting the moose moving into the forest, he grabs his bow, follows, and circles around, making a noise. Hoping to make the moose stop, but it doesn't work well. As it gets darker, he's not confident he can make the hunt. He retreats to the shelter, hoping to see the moose again tomorrow. If he had seen it 10 minutes earlier, he would have been confident in the hunt. But there's no time to process and pack it. Attracting bears would be worse. He's too excited to sleep tonight. Hoping for daylight to hunt the moose. Not sure how good Pace's archery is. It's the 25th day of the challenge. Craig has been harassed by wolves all night, too afraid to sleep, fearing they might suddenly attack his shelter. He doesn't know how long he has to wait, hoping for daylight to check if the wolves are still close by. Seizing the quiet moment, he attempts to sleep. Upon waking, he takes a walk and discovers fresh tracks nearby. Craig estimates there are about 7 wolves. Not sure what they caught last night, he hurries to the hunting spot to check. If he happens to find a lone wolf, he wouldn't mind having some wolf meat tonight. For safety, he takes a detour. Lately, it's been eerily quiet, as if something's brewing. Fresh black bear tracks have shown up. That's not good news. He needs to be extra careful. His bow might not be enough to hit a vital spot. Following the tracks, he suspects the bear ate the leftover bones. He doesn't know how the other contestants are doing. But surely someone has hunted a moose. Both sides can probably last a long time. To win this challenge, he needs to manage his stamina well. He's prepared for a long haul, estimating at least 100 days. The bones here were indeed taken away. Craig instantly became tense and walked a bit further, finding the remains of a leg. At least some food remains, which is a relief. The bear's whereabouts are unknown, and Craig fears it could be lurking in the woods. Anything can happen now. Despite this, Craig still wants to explore further. Suddenly, something rustled in the bushes. Not wanting to risk it, Craig retreated to the shelter. Dry branches are actually useful. They can retain scent for a while. Craig plans to mark them. He hopes this will keep the bear away. It's crucial not to show fear, as it might excite the bear instead. The scent is perfect. If the bear shows up, it'll know not to mess with him. Craig is sure this will keep the bear at bay. He looks incredibly confident, even advising others to pee higher to scare off the bears. Everyone knows bears gorge on food before hibernation. Craig is ready for a showdown with the bear. On day 26 of the challenge, Pace woke up and started looking for Tulu. The surroundings were eerily quiet. He had no idea where Tulu went. He tried calling out to attract it, not wanting to miss the chance to hunt a moose if he could catch one. Catching a moose would secure the prize money, but he didn't want to rely solely on that. Fishing was his sure bet to stay in the game. Just as he returned to the shelter to rest, a grouse flew out nearby. He quickly grabbed his bow and followed it. It was perched on a nearby tree. He took aim with his bow and easily took down the grouse. Pace immediately went to retrieve it. The shot was excellent. Everyone wondered whether to cook or roast it. He felt confident about his chances of winning. Meanwhile, Sarah had just finished her shelter and was making soup from leftover grouse bones. The fats were excellent. After eating, she needed more food. Her body needed lots of energy to recover. Just starving wouldn't do. She had to see what edible resources were outside. She felt the resources here were decent and was confident she could gather enough food. She planned to collect grass seeds and grind them into flour. No one had tried this before, and she was curious about the result. Sarah pulled the grass seeds from the stalks and ground them with stones. If this could be turned into food, she decides to focus on this task, thinking daily bread wouldn't be bad. Yet, she misses her husband and wonders how he's doing. She wonders how her husband is doing and hopes to see him soon after winning. The grinding is nearly finished. She adds a bit of water and kneads it. Let's see how it tastes after baking. She has no idea how many contestants are left. She thinks at least half of them are still in. Her advantage isn't very clear, so she needs to work harder. The pie is almost done baking. She takes a careful bite. While the taste is okay, the texture is terrible. No matter how much she chews, she can't swallow it. The coarse flour must be removed, or it won't go down, no matter the taste. William has just upgraded his shelter. Watching the migrating birds, he feels envious and really wants to leave. He dreams of going home to a nice stew. To keep going, he needs to find more food. He sets up 2 hooks as bait, hoping to catch a fish. If you ever find yourself in the wild, make sure to keep a positive mindset. It's best to find fishing tools. As long as luck isn't too bad, you should be able to catch enough fish to eat. William thinks this spot isn't as good as when he first got here. He can only revisit the same places. This place feels like a natural harbor. Fishing requires a lot of patience. If he wins the prize, he'll have more time to spend with his family. So, he must catch something. After many attempts, William finally sees a big fish. He keeps casting his line into the water. After several tries, he finally catches it. Though it's not as big as he imagined, at least he won't go hungry tonight. He's in a great mood. He almost wants to eat it raw. He quickly cleans the fish. This one should last him another 2 days. He stores it in a bag, confident it won't get stolen. It's day 27 of the challenge. He's craving Chinese food badly. It's so much better than burgers and fries. Just thinking about it makes his mouth water. If he wins the prize, he'll definitely visit China first. Where should Sarah start her trip? He dreams of eating from morning till night. Sarah hasn't caught any fish yet. He doesn't want to waste time on that. I can only set more traps and hope. There are plenty of beaver tracks around. Catching just one would be fantastic. Sarah doesn't really want to hunt with a bow and arrow. If she misses, she has to retrieve the arrow from the water. She tries to make the trap sturdier. 1 grouse can last her several days, and a beaver would make staying another month easy. She continues to set traps by the river. She's not very good at hunting. She used to be a fast food eater. After meeting her husband, she fell in love with wilderness survival. His guidance, especially in setting traps, now enables her to tackle the solo wilderness challenge. She learned for a long time. Now, she can judge animal paths and set traps in the best locations. Everything is set. Now it's just a waiting game for the beaver. Meanwhile, Pets has cleaned the grouse. Now he needs to cook it. He didn't add any seasoning, but having meat to eat is already quite good. While waiting, he retrieves his sword. Although it doesn't seem far, he doesn't want to scare the fish. He uses a rope to retrieve the sword, but the lake's thin ice shows how freezing the water is. Fortunately, his courage pays off. After several tries, he retrieves the sword just in time to enjoy the chicken soup. He wonders where the caribou went. He thought he could drink the soup right away, but then he saw a wolf by the river. This is really thrilling. If he had left a bit later, the wolf pack would have targeted him. Now, there's just one wolf staring at him. Do you think Pets has a chance to hunt it? Another wolf appears in front of him. Pets thinks this place is too dangerous. They are downwind of him. Sooner or later, they will come close to him. The caribou was probably scared away by them. Pets tries to howl to scare off the wolves. The result? It didn't work at all. Luckily, the wolf pack didn't stay long. They ran back into the forest. Before he could react, he heard the wolves howling again. Did they catch something to eat? Hopefully, it's not his caribou. He quickly stores the grouse in his stomach. Occasionally, having some chicken is nice. On day 28, William enjoys the view from above, but sees no food. He decides to catch some fish to fill his stomach and check the traps. There must be some food, right? But reality is harsh. I found nothing along the way. Just as I was about to head back, I suddenly saw a rabbit lying there. At last, he had meat to eat again. With winter approaching, food is still plentiful. He trusts the traps will bring more. As long as I can keep going, there's definitely a chance to win the prize. I'm grateful for nature's gifts. It's like always admiring nature's resources through a lens. I think I'm on the brink of losing my mind. I just tossed the rabbit straight into the pot to stew. Wei Lian thought it was so fragrant that he put the rabbit leg in his mouth and tasted it, and he didn't know how to describe it. You can't waste that bit of mince meat on your body, and the most important thing about a rabbit is that its head and tail contain a lot of nutrients. It's crucial for the body. After eating and drinking, save the leftovers. No one anticipated. That eagle is so bold, constantly climbing the pole for food. The challenge has reached day 29. The weather is getting colder and colder. Just shaking my legs isn't enough to keep warm. Craig is admiring the scenery. He feels ready to tackle it again. Today's goal is to gather thatch to insulate the shelter, hoping it will be warmer. Many don't get why participants quit due to loneliness. Craig says you need to experience it firsthand to truly understand. Anyone with a less resilient mindset can't cope. You need to embrace the challenge like he does to keep going. He wishes his wife could spend a night in his cabin, which is as comfortable as a hotel, to mark its completion. Craig even threw a party for himself. Although he was the only attendee, he had a great time. Do you think Craig can win the challenge? Let's wait and see. If you've seen Alone, you know contestants gather food before winter. Check out those fish. They're massive, each one bigger than the last. Picking them up is quite a task. An average person could eat for days. Besides the common big fish, the oysters here are quite tasty. I'm curious how they taste grilled. By day 30 of the challenge, only 4 contestants remain. The camera shifts to Craig. The weather is getting colder, and small ice chunks are appearing in the grass. The lake could freeze in a few days, so Craig needs to catch more fish now to add to his stockpile of chicken and meat. Craig feels sure he can make it to the end. Even if the lake freezes, he can still fish through the ice. He's already thinking about his vacation. Unexpectedly, he gets good news from his first fishing line. He pulls the fish to shore with effort. Wow! This fish is enormous, probably bigger than my calf. It could last him at least a week. No worries about hunger. The hook is caught in its throat. Craig suddenly has a bold idea. Why not leave the fish in the water? He can keep it there and retrieve it when he's hungry. The key is to thread the line through its jaw, ensuring it can swim to deeper water. This keeps it fresh and prevents birds from eating it. Craig thinks he's a genius. Do you think this could really work? Anyway, he has already put the fish back. If he's lucky, he might finish his smoked meat before the crew shows up to congratulate him. It all hinges on whether the others drop out early. Craig heads back to celebrate, taking out the smoked meat he prepared earlier. Eating this much in a day is actually enough. Next, he plans to catch more fish, making his survival feel like a vacation. Suddenly, he hears something and worries that birds might eat his fish. Unexpectedly, his other fishing line has caught another fish, and it's not small either. He has to show it to the camera. He quickly picks up the rod. This fish is ridiculously big. Wow, Craig's luck is really good today. He's one step closer to the prize. I can't imagine anyone doing better than him. At least he won't worry about hunger this month. In survival, the safest place for food is your stomach. He avoids bringing the fish back to prevent attracting animals. It's tiring to always be on alert. Right after Craig said that, a bird swooped in to snatch food, showing no fear of being shot. He has no way to deal with it. You can't eat the bird even if you catch it, and you still have to watch the meat. Luckily, he noticed early, so not much was eaten. Craig got up to deal with the meat, but the bird returned. Clearly, you can't look away from the meat for a moment. On day 31 of the challenge, William is still sleeping in his shelter. For him, it's just too comfortable. He has no desire to get out of bed and wishes he could stay there until the crew arrives. His main goal is to conserve energy. People say the contestants are just starving. William says it takes skill too. You can't burn all your fat at once. You need to take in energy gradually as you use it to stay balanced. William plans to rest more and do less. Relying on his fat reserves for a few more days, he's not worried about burning it off. After enough rest, it's time to get to work. The most important thing now is to get more food. Fishing is the most reliable option. Try to eat more and work less. He doesn't know how many contestants are left, but it seems only one has more fat than him. He still has a good chance to last till the end. However, his body is getting weaker. He's afraid he might suddenly collapse. First, he checks on the stored meat. It's enough to last him the week, but he didn't expect a mink to try and steal it. Without the protective covering outside, the meat would have been ruined. Since it likes being with the meat so much, it can join it in his stomach later. I'm curious about what mink meat tastes like. While the mink was busy, William slowly approached and took the meat back. He thought he could easily catch it, but during the struggle, it scratched his face. In the wild, getting injured by an animal can easily lead to infection. William isn't too worried. At worst, he'll just need more antibiotics. The priority now is to cook the leftover fish so it doesn't get stolen again. I wonder if the mink-bitten fish is safe to eat. Is William fighting fire with fire? Hopefully, he won't get a stomachache tonight. With food becoming scarcer, William finds winter really tough. With more meat stored, he has to worry about theft. Suddenly, he hears something. The tension rises immediately. He must secure the meat, or he won't make it to the end. Meanwhile, Craig's food gets stolen too. His big fish is gnawed by mice. He must find a way to protect it. Otherwise, all his food will go to waste. He must build another storage room, and the easiest way is to dismantle the old one. Is to take apart the old one and repurpose it. He aims to create a rolling storage room. With some work, these materials will be useful. He plans to build a ground cache under this big tree. Although it has rained a lot recently, this area is still quite dry. It's an ideal spot for a storage room, but Craig doubts he'll finish today. He'll start with the basic framework, laying logs for the he lays down a woven floor and uses the same materials to build up the structure. With the weather getting colder, theoretically, he shouldn't have to worry about the food spoiling. To ensure mice don't get in, he plans to use this deer hide as padding. The issue is the holes in the hide, making him worry that mice might still get in. For now, he just needs to finish the job. It looks great. The new storage room is so nice he could even sleep in it. The hide is still dry, so he just needs to gather some wood to cover it. Craig thinks this will keep it safe from theft. A locking bar at the top fits into a tree notch, making it bear-proof. Now, let's check on pace. He now finds owls quite charming. For now, he can manage with the fish he has. It's been ages since he saw any moose. He wants to stockpile enough food before winter sets in. He's been stockpiling firewood every day, enough for 2 or 3 days. He's unsure if the gill net has caught anything. Pace feels unlucky, having missed the moose and lost the fish. This isn't a scripted show. Since arriving, he's made many mistakes and can't keep this up. But the river's not helping at all. The water level's too low, making it even tougher to catch fish later. He must catch a big fish now, or he'll stay hungry. Since arriving, he's shed a lot of weight and fears disqualification because of it. Now, he's at a loss. He can only handle things step by step, but it's getting worse. Just when he thought he'd go hungry again, he suddenly noticed movement. Wow, he didn't expect to see that deer again, strolling on the other side. This might be Pace's last chance. If he can hunt it, he might have a shot at the final prize. Pace thought the distance was too great and doubted his spear's reach, so he chose to wait a bit longer. He watched to see if the deer would swim over. To lure it closer, he kept mimicking the deer's call. The deer did stop, but soon it turned and left. As they say, hesitation leads to defeat. In hindsight, he should have tried shooting an arrow. Pace kept wondering why the deer didn't come over. Was his call not enticing enough? The deer had completely disappeared. Who knows when he'll see one again? Pace's mood was getting worse and worse. He might have needed that deer to win. Craig seems to have the upper hand. It's now day 32 of the challenge. Snow blanketed everything, catching Craig off guard with its early arrival. Fortunately, he had already stockpiled plenty of food. He didn't expect to still see deer around. Hunting was out of the question. He didn't want to waste energy on it. He just needed to make sure he had enough meat daily to last the challenge. William stayed positive. He was constantly searching for food and enjoyed the snow because it made spotting animal tracks easier. Sarah finally appeared on camera. She had been resting in her shelter lately. With winter here, she didn't want to go out much. Sarah really missed her family. This weather was perfect for sitting by the fireplace and enjoying good food and talking with everyone. The more she dwelled on it, the stronger her desire to go home grew. Yet, she was determined to keep trying. She hoped to hunt some food to bring back, feeling she had an edge since her home was similar. She was accustomed to winter survival. The lake was slippery, so she treaded carefully. She didn't expect to find purple trees. Unfortunately, they were too small to interest her. She still hoped to find some salmon. She thought back to the times with her kids, teaching them to find food and catch big fish. After wandering around, she found nothing, not even a fish. Sarah's situation was getting worse and worse. I'm not sure how much longer I can last. I'm not as strong as when I first got here, and I'm worried my body won't make it. Now, I can only return to the shelter to rest. Sarah's time in the secret room is running out. If I find nothing, I'll have to come back. Although mushrooms and berries provide some energy, I use up almost all of it just walking around. Life is getting tougher. I just keep telling myself I can succeed, hoping it helps. It's day 33 of the challenge. Craig took his his bow and went out to find some food. Unexpectedly, he ran into a paper sculpture. He headed towards the storage area. It looked like it was trying to steal food. Craig thought it was a good chance to test his defenses. He didn't want to be accused of not giving it a chance to eat its fill. It's well built and keeps other animals out. I suggest everyone check it out. As the temperature drops, the fish in the water can be stored longer. Now, I don't have to worry about food and clothing. I'm feeling healthy. I miss my family, but I know they want me to win the prize even more. I've swapped out the pole for a sturdier one, so even a bear can't get in. Do you think Craig stands a chance of winning? I've lost a big edge. The others seem ready to quit anytime. When my wife visits, I have to let her try the fish I caught. It's delicious. Plus, I don't need to worry about food theft at night anymore. I'm ready to win the prize money. I originally planned to retrieve the fish, but Craig didn't expect it to be frozen. I'm not sure if the fishing line is cut, so I need to quickly check if the fish is still there. Celebrating too early can really backfire. The biggest fish and the hook are gone. The food I could have had is lost. I should have grabbed it yesterday. I'm really bummed out. Winning the prize money seems less likely now. I need to hurry and check if the other fish ran away. Luckily, it didn't break free. At least there's still one fish to eat. I'll get that fish up later. I'm not sure how the others are faring, but they likely have less food than me. However, based on my hunger, I might not outlast the others, so I need to focus on getting more food. Now, I can properly store the processed fish. The meat inside is the key to my victory. It's the 34th day of the challenge. Pace plans to look around the area today. I aim to hunt a moose, though it's tough. First, let's see how the traps are doing. I'd be satisfied if I could catch a rabbit, but unfortunately, I haven't seen any signs along the way. Just when I was feeling a bit down, I saw a beaver's slide. It proves there's still food around. I'll use the remaining line to set up more traps. I'll make the snares a bit larger. If I can catch a beaver, it would last me at least half a month. Pes had high hopes, but he accidentally fell into the water, soaking his lower body instantly. He needs to rush back to get warm, unsure if his body can handle it. First, he must empty the water from his shoes. His feet are numb, and he's shivering. He can't afford to quit because of hypothermia. Without a lighter on him, he can't start a fire on the spot. Pes is feeling worse with every step. The worst part is he's lost in the forest. Oh boy. Even if he reaches the shelter, his body could still be in trouble. He has no idea how long he's been lost. At last, he spots a familiar landmark. Despite the discomfort, he trudges back to the shelter. He now needs to start a fire and change his clothes. It's uncertain if Pes's body can hold up. His socks are soaked, and his feet are almost numb. In this weather, it's hard to dry clothes. Pes might have to quit the challenge. It's day 35 of the challenge. William is in good spirits. He follows his plan every day. His main concern is still food. He hasn't managed to get much to eat. Animals keep coming to steal his food. He prays for a good meal today. Surprisingly, it seems to work. He finds a beaver caught in his trap. He quickly goes over to handle it, grabbing a stick to finish the job. The beaver is smaller than he thought. A bigger one would have been ideal, but it's still something. He hopes the traps will catch more beavers. For now, he'll take this one back to eat. In winter, the body needs fat the most. Only by consuming enough food can he maintain his body temperature. Processing the beaver isn't difficult. Most of the meat is in the tail. He wishes he could invite his family to taste it. The meat looks quite good. Even though he doubts he'll win, he wants to see how long he can last. William has already prepared the meat. He's going to drown it in corpse pieces and eat them when he's hungry, and he's going to eat them. Good guys, he's been stolen so many times. I thought about storing the food, but I worry it will get taken again. I'll finish the remaining grouse meat first. On day 36, Craig saw another animal sneaking up to steal his food. He observed it as it crept closer. Feeling generous, he chose not to scare it off with his bow and arrow. Instead, he used a flare. At first, he just wanted to assess the situation. I didn't expect to find the lost rod. I wonder if the fish is still on it. Better hurry and reel it into sea. Craig prayed as he retrieved the rod, and to his surprise, the lost fish was still on it. He felt certain he had the championship in the bag. He couldn't see anyone else as a threat. Even the escaped fish returned to him. Craig felt winning was his destiny. There's more food to store in the pantry now. I'm in such a good mood. Life in the shelter feels pretty decent. The only problem is the smoke. Closing the door makes it worse. I need to find a solution. It's day 37 of the challenge. Despite falling into the water yesterday, a night by the fire has helped him dry out. I'm feeling much better now. Let's see if the traps have any fish. The river is starting to freeze over. It's going to be even harder to catch fish later. From a distance, I can see a pretty big fish over there. Finally, I caught a big fish. Can anyone identify it? It should last me several days. Pes finds the net somewhat useful and left it in the water until it froze. Now, he just needs to clean and process the fish. Even though he missed many chances to get food, seeing this fish gives him hope there's still a chance. Pess is optimistic about what she'll find. When she reels in the fish, she feels a surge of confidence about winning. Now, she doesn't have to worry about the fish spoiling. She can just stockpile them. Pess is ready to stay another month. Does she have a chance to overtake Craig and win the prize? Let's wait and see.
Players, in order to win money, you could say you're using every means to get food. Catch a rabbit in a trap like he did. It's just a basic operation. Someone with a little skill will catch the grouse himself. It really is a set of one quasi. Of course, there are homemade hooks to catch big fish. The size is quite large. Look at this, and it's even more dramatic. I'm afraid it's a lot bigger than my thighs. The hoard of food is also quite abundant. Would you have gotten this much food in the past? The challenge continued until the 40th day. The camera goes to Clegg. He's trying to build a range hood type smoke baffle. The material, of course, was the deer skin. This will help avoid setting the shelter on fire. The finished product looks pretty good. Now you can put the rest of the fish into the soup. Clegg thought he had it all too good. There's basically nothing to worry about right now. Okay, as long as there are no major health problems, then the bonus should be solid. I don't know how many contestants are left. I miss home, and people come by early to check out the shelter. If you can keep it, invite your friends and family over for a picnic when you're free. It's really a good time to relax. Clegg remembered how he had not handled the rabbit properly before. It gets stuck in your teeth when you eat it. That was pretty hard. That's pretty skillful at handling it on your own now. I kind of miss the smell of rabbits. I wonder if I'll ever catch a rabbit. The meat must be well preserved. He doesn't want to get chewed up by rats. There's still smoke in the shelter, though, but it's a lot better than before. How about we check the traps next? I just got some jerky last night. I found a rat feeding over there. So angry he wanted to set the rat on fire. You know you're trying to protect yourself from being eaten. That's a lot of energy put into storage. He doesn't want to lose food because of rats. Although jerky can last a long time. But I'm not gonna lie around and wait for my bonus. Clegg insisted on going to work every day, looking for food. He dare not eat too much food at one time. Make it a point to eat a certain amount each day. As long as I don't faint from hunger, he's prepared to stay here for hundreds of days. We need more fresh meat. Too bad there aren't any surprises in this trap. I wonder where all the rabbits are hanging out around here. Clegg plans to look further afield. You don't get food in the shelter. This is where you hunt your own moose. It's been a long time since I've been here. The rest of the moose bones are still here. Suddenly a lot of ideas come into my head. We're gonna take this bone off and make it into something else. Looking back, they've moved many times since they got married. Can't provide a stable environment for a child. I need this prize money to make my life better. So you must do your best to throw yourself into the challenge. We can build a big house by then. Send your child to a better school. I can feel less pressure myself. Do more of what you love. We're pretty much done with the bones. What do you think he's planning to do? I think we're taking it home for soup. The bone marrow is good food. After all, Mr. Clegg laughed but said nothing. The challenge continued until day 41. The camera goes to Sarah. It had been a long time since she had enjoyed the sun. I feel like my whole body is refreshed. I did a simple hand skin test on myself. Even if you're drinking water every day, but it's still very short of water. Worry will affect the next challenge. Compared with when I came, my body is much weaker. All I can do right now is heat up the soup for energy. Hopefully this will ease the fatigue a bit. Still curious to see how the other contestants are doing. She thinks she's done a pretty good job, just a little less food hoarding. I hope the other contestants didn't get much food either. At least I have a few more days with experience. She's a little slow to adjust to the environment here. Just keep trying to get comfortable. I did feel much better after eating the soup. We'll have to cut down and carry some firewood. I feel tired just sawing wood now. The worst part was the pain that started to appear under the ribs. Not that it hurts so much that you can't work, but it's very uncomfortable to keep going. The body is already very weak. After all, she is old. Give her more food to eat. I don't think I'm gonna get better anytime soon. We just have to see if the other players can get out early. I don't think Sarah's gonna be able to make it in a couple of days. She wanted to keep going. I don't want to quit the challenge and get out of here. The mood is getting worse and worse. Worried about being carried back by the show crew. I'll only see my family at the hospital. I don't know how long Sarah will last though, but one thing is for sure, she won't get the bonus. Let's see what Perez was doing there after dark. I woke up feeling a little hungry, just in time to take out the leftover fish head. Perez could only get 1 or 2 pieces of meat down to make soup. Man, it's all about the grease. Pets thinks it's a trick on the gut. I hope this will help me sleep better at night. It's lonely to be out here on your own. I often wonder if I want to quit the challenge and go home. I think about things every day after work. Paz doesn't know how long he'll last. It was very boring. He's going to see what's going on at the gill nets. You know, it's black outside. It's really easy to go wrong with that light. Pets wasn't worried about that at all. I even began to fantasize about catching a bunch of fish. I was worried he'd fall in the water. The temperature does drop a lot at night. The worst part was when Pets heard the wolf howling. Pets didn't let that deter him. Instead, speed up and check the gill nets. Talking about being attacked by wolves, but that foot is headed for the gill net. Let's just hope the wolves aren't interested in Perez anymore. If you can stick to it, then I'm sure I can get a good ranking. It's gonna be frozen over here tomorrow. It's going to be harder to catch fish. Think back to when I was in school. I didn't like the school thing. training. After finishing high school, he put himself into society. In the end, I decided that wilderness survival was more suitable for me. Although there are many things encountered during the period, but I made it through. Too bad the night trap didn't bring any surprises, did it? Pets was eager to ask who else was challenging him. I had such a hard time myself. How do the others keep going? It was dark, and there were wolves howling. I had to go back to the shelter and rest. It's much more comfortable in the shelter. I wanted to see the stars in the sky. I can't believe I broke my glasses again. The rupture is a little bit severe. Let's see if we can get these glasses fixed. If there's a problem here, it's deadly for survival in the wild. There's no way to hunt for food on your own, and Clegg's busy catching rats. He had to make sure the food was safe. It's better to sleep less than to have a problem with jerky. It's just one position for a long time, and that's pretty hard. I feel a tear in my lower body. Where the hell is that rat? I just don't want to go to the trap. And when Pies got back, he started fixing them right away. I want to heat up the paracord this time, using the drops of glue to fuse together. It looks like you're welding. It's not a bad combination. It shouldn't fall apart for a while, at least. William's side is different. He's been up all night thinking about how to be better. You know, I do have a lot of ideas. How do you store food better? It's got pictures on it that you can see when you look up. It's like having family around all the time. Why can't Sarah sleep? There's a throbbing pain from the kidney. No matter what posture you take, you're not relieved. Are you having any serious health problems? It's like being stabbed in the heart. Sarah's not ready to end up in the hospital for a challenge. Now she wants to call the doctor.
Oh my God. It's horrible.
I barely made it to dawn. Things aren't getting any better. Sarah found it hard to keep her body upright. She wanted to try and hold on a little longer, going over there to see if there are any birds. It would be nice to hunt one. Sarah had never experienced such pain. I hope I get better. I don't see any birds around here. Now I feel a little dizzy after looking up for a long time. Sarah's body is getting worse and worse. I didn't drink enough water, or I ate the wrong things. She doesn't know what's going on. I just don't have the strength to walk now. Sarah didn't expect it to hurt so much. You know, it's a lot of wilderness survival. The body is at its limit. Get the program on the phone right now. I hope I can get here soon and take her to the hospital. The show was expecting a bad day for the next contestant. I just didn't expect this class to quit so quickly. Sarah was trying to ignore the medical problems, but the pain was more than I could bear. She didn't want to break her body for the prize money. Not bad for making it this far. Now quit the challenge and go home. I believe the family will understand and support. It's not a good decision to quit the challenge. Brain has a voice that says it can hold on a little longer, but the pain of the body was there to warn. It's hard to ignore and keep going. Can last 42 days here. Sarah was very proud of it. I don't know how long the rest of them will last. I hope we can break the previous record. She just wants to get home and be together. I haven't seen my granddaughter in a long time. I wonder how she's doing now. This trip didn't just improve your survival skills. I also have a deeper understanding of life. Even if this challenge is over, Sarah will go on to survive in the wild. Constantly hone your skills to surpass yourself. With Sarah's withdrawal from the challenge, there are only 3 players left in the field. I don't know who you'll see more of.
I wish it was constant.
Definitely getting closer.
The challenge continued until the 43rd day. William is going to eat the stored food. In theory, no animal can get in there and steal it. He was quite confident of it. You can see that the meat covered in rubble hasn't spoiled. You can put the food in the back, too. A little meat to cook is enough for the day. It does look like an odd hand, but there's still a lot of meat on it. William tried to spread his limited food over as many days as possible. He doesn't think people are hoarding enough food. It's all about who can starve the most. So just eat a little meat every day to satisfy your cravings. Does anyone have enough food now? When the ice is safe enough, you can go up there and try fishing yourself. He didn't believe he could stay in the Air Force. The meat is almost cooked. William cut the meat slightly. It's all good protein. Can make the stomach become more comfortable. Immediately put the processed meat in your mouth to taste. It's a lot tastier than normal meat. William always believed that. Pain is just a sign of weakness. Even if things get worse, I'm sure you can get over it if you keep at it. The food stocks are still a little low. The best thing is to get a big fish to hoard. He just wondered how many players were on the field. Why aren't the show over yet? The challenge continued until the 45th day. William feels in good shape. Let's see if we get anything from the trap. Too bad there's no trace around. Food resources become even scarcer when winter comes. It feels like the rabbits are fleeing somewhere else. I had no choice but to get some more beaver. I don't know if we'll get any food before we finish. So far, the storage here is working well. You don't have to worry about animals coming to eat them. It's just getting the rocks out like this every time is really tiring. If you can, I prefer something more convenient. To William's surprise, the meat inside was gone. What happened to the deal that no animals would get in? The atmosphere suddenly became tense. William is so pissed off that he doesn't know what to say. He couldn't figure out what went wrong. Man, you hide your meat every day, and you keep eating it. I'd put it in my stomach. William clears out all the stones. Could a rat get in there and eat all the meat? There wasn't much food in the first place. Now it's getting worse. William thought it was the safest place. I didn't know the animals were so ferocious. I shouldn't have hoarded food for so long. Maybe we should hang it up in the shelter. He still doesn't know what it was.
I'm completely out of food, and now it looks like I might even have to fast.
It's freaking devastating.
How's it going with Clegg? He's making canyon hooks. The main material is the moose ribs. Try to break this up. See if you can get a decent edge. It's more like a big thorn than a hook. You can go right inside the bait. When the fish swallows this, it will stick in his throat. Once they turn sideways, they can't break free. Clegg thinks it's just as it should be. There must be fish in theory. If it works well, you can make more yourself. All those hooks must be able to catch a fish. Now I'm getting better at it and make different styles to see what the fish like. He can't wait to get this set up. Now, how about we take a look at the trap? Eating jerky while walking. Clegg thinks this life is really good. There are 5 traps nearby. All you need is a hit. He has been wondering how much food to hoard is enough. It would be nice to know how the other players are doing. Now I can only put my best efforts into it. Conservatively, it's gonna take another month. As things stand now, as long as nothing goes wrong, staying 70 days is no problem. He thinks William, Jack and Paz might still be on the field. I have to say Clegg's guess was pretty good, so he didn't let up even when he hunted moose, because he knew these people were particularly hungry. It's impossible to think about their condition in terms of common sense. I thought the trap was gonna fall flat today. I didn't realize the last trap had a live rabbit. Clegg picked up his stick and went straight for it. The rabbit is done with a single stroke. The size is really good. I have food to eat again. The little life is getting better and better. It means a lot to me to get this rabbit. I can't survive on rabbit alone, but add in all the fat you've been hoarding. The rabbit can make the body more energetic. He's already pulled the rabbit's head off. Next, he has to get rid of the rabbit. I wonder what happens when you apply moose oil. He can't wait to taste it. Clegg thinks every hunt should be filled with gratitude. Then nature will bring food. I don't know how many people started against him. Fortunately, I have persevered until now. Even moose can be hunted. I don't think anyone thinks he's dying right now. Because successfully caught the rabbit, the mood is not good. Clegg began to share his life again. He's been to a lot of places. I know a lot of things I haven't seen on the internet. The reality is even crueler than I imagined. If you have a whole family, that's a lot happier than half the population. He didn't really want to remember the bad things. I just wish people would get out more. There are a lot of people who need help, especially if it's under fire. Many times harder than the challenge of living alone in the wilderness. You can quit when you're not feeling well. They can't say get out of there. There's one more thing I can't let go of. It's my brother getting out of here. We used to be so close. I just didn't think about delivering pizza. They're gonna get shot by people walking by. The impact of this on Clegg is huge. I was silent for a long time to feel how fragile and precious life is. Then he went to the orphanage to help with the children. The children lost their spirits one by one. I can only help a little. The moment I saw them smile, Clegg knew there was something there he wanted. Because I have experienced too much, exposed to too many different things. Some places are violated by helping others. Clegg just wants to see the fear seriously removed from someone. It's like falling in love and losing her completely. He suggested the editor get it out. It's important to look back on the champion's journey.
So now you know Timber a little better. That's me in a nutshell.
Challenge to 46 days. William was in a slump when he lost his food. I'm not as confident as I was. He wondered what else he could get to eat now. I was hungry all day long and cooing. I wouldn't have hidden in the rubble. There's so much beaver left to eat. This negativity can't continue. William said he still had a chance to get food. Force yourself to get up and look outside. The best option right now is to try ice fishing. It looks like it's thick enough. He's gonna get an ice ladder to the middle for safety. Luckily, there's no shortage of materials around. It took a while to put things in order. William wasn't sure how thick the ice was. In theory, it should hold up. There's no turning back for him now. If you haven't caught any fish in a few days, I have no way to fight it. The ladder is ready. William tried to step on it. I don't think it's gonna hit the water right away. I was already nervous. Suddenly a bird flew out from behind. He didn't think the ice was very safe. After some hesitation, I decided to go bird hunting. After all, fishing is not always successful, but the bird just needs to be careful. I have a good chance of hunting myself. You can see the bird flying in this direction. William followed it all the way and found it resting there. Now let's see if we can touch it. I didn't know grouse had a high appetite for survival. Fortunately, it didn't scare it away. William needs to be more focused now. The noose was getting closer and closer to his neck. It turns out that grouse catching is a lot easier than fishing, though it keeps flapping its wings trying to break free. But William doesn't leave food alone. He thought he was very lucky. Take the grouse to the shore and clean it up immediately. William was now so excited that he was dancing. It turns out that as long as there's enough food nearby, even if he lost the beaver, he could get meat quickly. You can't go on like this forever. The point is that you can bait the guts you don't eat. The success rate of fishing that is greatly improved. The grouse is almost ready for cooking. This grouse would be better with fish. After treatment, it looks even more attractive. William just wanted to bite into his mouth. What's more special is this thing. People used to hang them on their Christmas trees, and it blows up like a balloon. The pine needles inside look even more beautiful. William thought he could celebrate a little. The finished product product does look a bit magical. Some high-end ingredients don't need cooking at all. The challenge continues until the 47th day. The camera goes to Paz. He doesn't know why he suddenly feels sick. Throw up right in the shelter. Didn't get much better until dawn. It felt like the stomach was being whipped. Paz's day off doesn't get any better. Feel the stomach that is more and more uncomfortable. He tried everything to ease it, but it didn't work out very well. It lasted until the 50th day. Paz was just feeling a little better to come out and clean up. The food in the stomach is vomited clean. Got to check the fishing line, and then immediately go back to sleep. I hope this makes me feel better. Paz doesn't have a lot of flesh on his face. After a few days of vomiting, it looks even worse. It feels like it could blow over at any moment. If things continue and don't get better, Paz is gonna get kicked out of the show. The worst part is he doesn't know what's wrong, Don't know how to avoid further diarrhea. The only thing I can think of is reindeer moss. I cooked it 4 times and ate the whole pot. My stomach hasn't hurt since. Maybe you need to eat some carbs later. The easiest thing to get is charcoal. It traps the toxins inside. Whatever Pets could think of, he's gonna try everything he can. I don't want to quit this challenge. This side of the gill net is not causing a wake-up call. Paz thinks it's a shame. It would be nice to stock up on fish before it freezes. It's no wonder to watch past players say, things are getting worse over here, because the show picked a really bad place. Without food, we had to go back to the shelter. I don't think Pets is gonna last much longer. There was neither food nor enough sleep. Is that good enough to survive the others? Unless he can hunt a moose now, I'm withdrawing Paz from the challenge in advance. I don't think I'll get punched in the face and the back. Paz can only remove the meat from the bottom of the box now. It's really one piece at a time. I hope it makes me feel better. Feeling like you're struggling to do anything right now. I worry that I'm going to burn out and wear myself out. I don't know how many contestants are left. At least another month to have any hope of winning the prize. Eat these and go to bed immediately. Pets is feeling a little overwhelmed. Why don't you think about when you're going home? Just put one mouthful in your mouth. Suddenly you see something. Pets feels like it's all over. He didn't think there were bugs in the fillets. Boy, now we know what's causing this stomachache. Paz is still trying to decide whether to finish the rest. Put the fish back in and cook a little longer. Maybe you won't get sick. If he vomits again, they're really gonna have to take him to the hospital. Thinking back to the day I caught the big fish, thought it was a highlight. I didn't know it was going downhill. It should have been checked more carefully. Maybe we wouldn't be this embarrassed if we didn't eat it. So far, Paz has not felt ill since nightfall. Can only keep encouraging myself in front of the camera. Now the strategy is to get through it one day at a time. Let's hope the other contestants quit the challenge soon. I didn't quite understand why someone would give up a bonus and go home. It was my turn to have gastrointestinal problems. He'd like to go to the hospital right now and lie down. Can't do anything on your own now. It's only going to get worse. Even the most basic maintenance of a fire is difficult, not to mention collecting food. Call the show over, and the exit challenge is simple. But it was torture for Paz. He really needs that prize money. I don't know how much longer I can hold out here. Is wilderness survival really anything that can happen? I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. There were voices in his head telling him to quit the challenge. Ideas that are getting stronger and stronger. It was like something was tapping. Before you know it, you'll be surrounded. Paz doesn't have much time to survive in the wild. The challenge is on day 51. Craig is trying to fish with a canyon hook. If we can catch it, he can put more hooks in the water. One catch in 2 days is pretty good. It was quite warm in the shelter. Clegg can make a souvenir shirtless. Does anyone see that this is a fox? I thought we were carving a pig. Clegg thinks his sons have had it too hard. Because of my job, they always have to say goodbye to many friends. I hope the kids will like these souvenirs. My oldest son was opposed to his coming because we can't see each other for a long time. Clegg gets homesick when he has time off. He had to find something to keep his mind off. Compared to when I first came, I really lost a lot of weight. Even if you eat meat every day, but it still burns a lot of calories. He doesn't know why he's getting thinner. I'm afraid I won't get enough weight to quit the show. I hope we got something on the line. I didn't think a mink was there to touch the line. Looks like he's trying to steal the fish from the water. It's a good thing I found it early, or the fish would be gone. Immediately pull up the line and get the fish up. It was bigger than I thought. It's no use trying to survive. You can catch it with a homemade canyon hook. It's gonna be easier to catch fish. That's a big fish shoved down his throat. It's a fishing miracle. I recommend you get one. Clegg is also trying it for the first time. I didn't want to just pull that fish out. The mood is so good. Thanks to the show for choosing the place. It's like my own happy home. The cold wind blew on his face and became more excited. Now I'm afraid my body will break down. I don't want to retire and go home so early. Before Clegg came to challenge us, his wife agreed with him very much. I hope I can have a good time. It would be even better to bring back the prize money. Give yourself a shout. He felt sure he would get the bonus. The camera goes to Paz. The lake is almost freezing. Pets thought the gill net was going to die. When you don't get a fish. I can't believe we actually got a fish at the gill net. Now Pets can finally get fresh meat. Then we'll just wait for ice fishing. The catch was bigger than expected. As good as my own thighs. That's the equivalent of a week's worth of food. Use snow directly to clean dirt off fish surfaces. It's all about bugs. I didn't find any bugs or anything. Pets is dealing with it faster and faster. I can't wait to eat it whole. To be on the safe side, go back and cook before eating. It feels like things are getting better. Just put the fish in there and hide it. tried it. I was kind of happy about it. I didn't expect to find rat droppings inside. It spoils most of the fish. So angry he didn't know what to say. It's got rat droppings and bite marks all over it. Paz doesn't even know if this fish is edible. I'm afraid I'll get cold after eating. To be on the safe side, give up the fish. All the food that was hoarded was inedible. Only the uncontaminated parts can be preserved. I hope this doesn't spoil your stomach. Will he be able to continue the challenge? Let's wait and see.
People often think there's nothing to eat in the wild, but these contestants are enjoying their meals. Check out this huge fish they just caught. It's probably thicker than my thigh. They're catching bigger fish every day. Worried about Wolverine stealing your food? Take a tip from him and build an ice box. Just stack the ice blocks neatly and sprinkle water on top. This way, even Wolverines can't get in and will have to look elsewhere. Some contestants even make musical instruments for fun. Their days are improving so much, you'd think they were on vacation. Are they really going to live alone in the Arctic? It's day 54 of the challenge, and only 3 contestants are left. Let's see how Pace is doing. He could hear the crackling of the river all night, probably starting to freeze over. Pace thinks it's a good chance for ice fishing, but unfortunately, his rod is broken. To reach deeper waters, he'll have to wait a bit longer. Not catching any fish today makes Pace feel a bit down. He's running low on supplies, and surviving in the Arctic is tough, with everyone worried about food. If it weren't for the storage room, where mice have been stealing food, he could be lying down eating jerky right now. With nothing else to do, he pretends to host a show in the Arctic, showing off his stage performance. Pace is having a lot of fun, and he thinks his outfit deserves a perfect score. If it weren't so cold, he could play all day. He quickly starts a fire to keep warm. He was quite satisfied with his shelter until he saw water dripping onto his sleeping bag. His mood instantly soured. Pace doesn't know where the problem is, hoping it's not a big hole above. He decides to cut down the spruce trees to stop the water from dripping down the branches. Cold air keeps coming in, making the shelter very damp. If his sleeping bag gets wet in this weather, he might have to quit the challenge. Pace moves his things outside the waterproof tarp and piles snow on top, hoping this will solve the dripping problem. The only issue is he's running low on energy. Just moving the spruce trees leaves him breathless. He really needs food to regain his strength. On day 55 of the challenge, Craig is tired of eating jerky every day. If it weren't for the bit of fat on top, he might have to stew the meat. Given the current situation, he eats and sleeps well every day, with no health issues. I think Craig has a big advantage and should win the prize. He still insists on going out to hunt rabbits with his bow and arrow. However, there are no signs of animals around. He'll have to wait for the ice to form and try ice fishing. He sets a trap, hoping for some luck. Rabbits don't have much fat, so eating them won't improve his health, but he just wants to eat rabbit meat. The trap's rope broke, probably because an animal escaped. This proves there's food around, but his luck is a bit off. Craig wonders why the challenge hasn't ended yet. The contestants this time are too good at enduring hunger. He guesses there aren't many people left. Maybe in a month, he can take the prize money home. The traps haven't caught any rabbits, which feels like a waste of time and energy. He might as well rest in his shelter. With enough jerky to last 100 days, there's no need to stress himself out. After resting, Craig starts cooking meat again. Suddenly, he hears a noise from the storage room. It turns out a Wolverine is trying to steal food again. Although he's confident in his storage room, he goes out to check. Unfortunately, he doesn't see the Wolverine. Craig only finds out in the morning that the Wolverine had come back to steal fish. The bait was eaten clean. From the tracks, he knows the Wolverine is fixated on the food. He needs to find a way to hunt it. Maybe the Wolverine he encountered before isn't satisfied with just the innards and wants to steal all the meat. Craig is now following the tracks, hoping to catch the Wolverine. He realizes the Wolverine followed his footprints to the shelter, likely attracted by the scent of his boots. Most people would panic at the sight of a Wolverine, but Craig is excited. He hopes to catch and roast it before the ice forms. He dismantles all the traps, not wanting to catch rabbits for the Wolverine to eat. He plans to wait for the lake to freeze and then fish. On day 57 of the challenge, Williams River has frozen over with a thick layer of ice. If he can catch a big fish, he won't have to worry about food for at least 2 weeks. It's cold outside, and he doesn't want to get up. He no longer needs to catch oysters and can focus on other things. William feels the harder he works, the luckier he gets. Despite some strategic issues, he's managed to overcome them. Now, he just needs to see if he can catch fish through the ice. First, he needs to open up the hole a bit more and secure the fishing line. This way, he only needs to check it twice a day, saving a lot of energy. After a short while, he feels extremely cold. Without the fire and hot tea, he doesn't know how he'd manage. The Arctic scenery is beautiful, but full of hidden dangers. He's just getting by and wonders how the other contestants are doing. He prays they quit soon. The challenge can't last 100 days, right? Talking to the camera every day will drive him crazy. William keeps motivating himself with the thought of the prize money. He believes he can take the prize home. The meat is cooked, and after eating, William feels much better. Suddenly, he notices movement by the rod. He rushes over to check and finds a fish much bigger than he expected. He carefully brings it to shore. Wow, it's thicker than his thigh. William didn't expect to catch a fish on his first try. This fish will last him a long time. He feels hopeful about winning the prize. If he can catch fish like this every day, the show might go bankrupt. He's so excited he doesn't know what to say, just grateful for nature's bounty. This fish is much better than a beaver. No one else has probably caught such a big fish through ice fishing. In survival, you must stay focused. If he hadn't seen the fish, it might have escaped. He was already satisfied with this catch, but there's more inside, whether he eats it or uses it as bait. It's a good choice. With this help, he believes he can catch even bigger fish. Ice fishing is going better than expected. No matter how many contestants are left, he's confident he'll win the prize. After resetting the rod, he thinks he can put the fish back in the water to avoid other animals stealing it. I'm curious why William keeps hiding his food despite it being stolen so many times. He should just eat it. On day 58 of the challenge, Craig wakes up and starts working on deer antlers, using his tools and materials. He makes a deer antler guitar. The materials are carefully selected, and it looks quite unique. The sound is pretty good too. It's a shame there's no audience around, or it would attract many fans. Craig thinks with some adjustments, the sound will be even better. He's actually an amateur singer and has written a song for the show, hoping it becomes the theme song for Alone in the Wild.
Go tell my girl that I loved her more than any other until it comes for me.
I have to say, he sings pretty well. Fans can search for the full version. Craig is in great spirits. On day 59 of the challenge, William feels like his skin and bones. His hair, already thin, has become even finer since the challenge started. His face is always dirty, and he finds it a bit funny. The coming days will focus on ice fishing. If he can catch 7 or 8 big fish to store, he can wait out the challenge without worrying about food. Relying on one hole feels inefficient. William makes another hole nearby for his rod. For him, fish is like prize money. He makes the hole bigger to attract more fish. 2 holes seem too few, but he doesn't have many hooks. Otherwise, he'd set up as many as he could. He makes another hole nearby, so fish can see the bait from any direction. He plans to make an icebox to store extra bait. This way, he won't have to worry about birds stealing it. While building, he keeps an eye on the hooks. It looks simple to arrange the ice blocks, but it's quite challenging. It's hard to imagine how people survived in the past. Even with all his warm gear, he still feels cold. He works hard to improve his living conditions. The icebox looks small, but it's enough to store his food. On day 60 of the challenge, Pace's area has also frozen over. He's ready for ice fishing. Although he made anti-slip shoes, they don't work well. He has to walk slowly to avoid falling and getting hurt. With little food left, he needs to stock up on fish. The ice is thick, or maybe he's too weak. Just making a hole takes a lot of time. Swinging the axe sends ice chips flying onto his face, making him feel cold. He thinks the hole is big enough. Let's see how ice fishing goes. If he doesn't catch fish today, he'll get weaker. He estimates he can last at most 2 more weeks. If he doesn't have enough food by then, he won't need to quit. The show will carry him home for treatment. He's very anxious now. He thought he'd catch fish quickly, but after a long time, he hasn't seen any. Cold, he goes back to rest. There's fish in the shelter, but mice have nibbled on it, leaving droppings. After a simple cleaning, he cooks it. He's unsure if eating it will cause problems, but not eating will make him weaker. Would you risk eating it for the prize money? Pace definitely would. Worst case, he can get antibiotics later. He keeps eating the meat, which actually tastes okay if you ignore the mouse droppings. He hopes he won't get a stomachache tonight. If all goes well, he'll cook the rest of the fish and eat it, buying him a few more days. Let's see when he can catch some fish through ice fishing. It's the 6th day of the challenge. Craig feels life is pretty good right now. He even wants to invite his family to experience it. This doesn't feel like a challenge, it's more like a vacation. Today, he plans to sort out the jerky. There's too much meat, so he'll set aside the harder pieces and eat the softer ones first. He thought the meat would last a long time, but it's already starting to mold. Although it's just a little, it means more will follow. He wants to preserve as much edible meat as possible. For now, the jerky is dealt with. The most important thing now is the fish. Maybe he caught the moose too early, which has left him feeling unmotivated. He has to find ways to keep himself happy every day to avoid missing his family too much and quitting the challenge. This environment really tests the contestant's willpower. Even though he's eaten a lot, he feels weaker by the day. He can't let his mind affect him. He needs to stay positive and optimistic, hoping the other contestants will quit soon. He doesn't want to gnaw on meat every day. To pass the time, he plans to make more souvenirs. While others are complaining about not having enough to eat, Craig is gnawing on meat until his teeth hurt. The camera shifts to Pace, who is trying to catch more fish by setting up a gill net on the lake. The days are getting shorter, and there's still a lot to do, making him feel overwhelmed. As the sun is about to set, he finally finishes the hole and sets the net in the water, hoping to catch some fish. He's using everything he can, but he doesn't know when he'll catch fish. Pace feels the prize money is slipping further away. He has always listened to his mom, and if he wins, he plans to pay off her mortgage first. He desperately wants to win, but this place is giving him no breaks. He's afraid he'll wear himself out if this continues. With nothing else to do, he tries to relax by playing a homemade violin. These contestants could form a band. It looks more like a guitar than a violin. As long as it makes music, it's fine. Who do you think sings better, him or Craig? Playing the instrument lifts Pace's spirits a bit. It's the 62nd day of the challenge, and Craig plans to set up 3 ice fishing holes, hoping to catch at least one fish. The ice isn't as thick as he thought, so he quickly puts the hooks in the water, using as many as he has. On the way back, he gathers some firewood. They use a lot of firewood every day. The fire is burning so hot that he has to take off his clothes. It's so intense that he can't even put the pot on it, fearing it might burn the pot. In no time, the water is boiling. Craig finds it amazing. He only added some spruce, and it almost set the shelter on fire. This shows that no matter how well things go in survival, a small problem can ruin everything. Craig doesn't think it's a big issue. As long as he keeps going, no one can beat him. It's the 63rd day of the challenge, and William finds the cold unbearable, like ice shards piercing the air. He didn't expect to see grouse now. His snare has caught several, and he has another grouse to eat. Now he's checking the ice fishing hooks, hoping for a big catch. The bait is untouched, but the next hole has a huge catch, though the gill net is almost ruined. But catching such a big fish makes it all worth it. William's life is getting better, and he feels he has a real chance to last till the end. Guess how much this fish weighs? He stores the food in the icebox, but he feels it's not safe and might get stolen by animals. William isn't worried at all, fully immersed in his food. But as expected, something unexpected happens. Luckily, he didn't break any bones. If he had, it would have been over. Just as he left to get food from the shelter, a wolverine tried to steal it, looking for gaps to sneak in. William isn't worried. The wolverine soon leaves. This icebox is really something. It's the 64th day of the challenge, and Pace wakes up to check the fishing lines. Even with the sun out, it's freezing. It will only get colder. The worst part is the shorter days, with many tasks piling up. He hopes his body can handle it. He has no more good ideas, just taking it one step at a time. If he catches a fish, it will change the mood. Pace has all his safety gear on and is ready to break the ice. He wonders how effective the baited hooks will be. He misses his family terribly, the longest he's been away without contact. If he doesn't catch any fish soon, he plans to quit and go home. He keeps digging holes and setting hooks, but the water isn't deep, and he feels there are no fish. His mood is sinking. He really wants to hug his parents. Just when he thought he'd go hungry, a fish bites. He rushes to check and finds a big fish. After much effort, he finally has fish to eat. It's been so hard for him, and now he can stay a bit longer. He cries with joy. Every time he's about to give up, nature provides some food. This might be the biggest fish yet, enough for over 20 meals if rationed. Everything is looking up. He wonders how the other contestants are doing. At least he can eat well now, but he doesn't know if he can keep catching big fish. Meanwhile, Craig has been lying down for a long time, reluctant to explore outside. He forces himself to get up and work. To prevent the shelter from catching fire, he needs to adjust the setup, hoping to finish before dark. He removes the nails from the moose hide and moss, then replaces the hide. The available food is quite limited, not ideal for survival. The shelter has been reorganized, theoretically safe from fire, but without a smoke barrier, it's filled with smoke. He feels suffocated but has no better solution. He'd rather have a stuffy nose than a burnt shelter. He thinks the remaining contestants are strong. Even with jerky, he's struggling, and he wonders how others are managing. He hopes they quit soon. He wants to share some jerky with everyone. Craig doesn't search for food today, just sits by the fire to stay warm. Who will last till the end and win the prize? Let's wait and see. No one thought ice fishing would be this easy. Using the preset lines, they effortlessly caught big fish. The fish were astonishingly huge, thicker than my thigh, and it wasn't just one person catching them. Everyone caught fish, with some landing 3 in a day. It felt like nature was handing them meat on a platter. Catching fish often hinges on using bait. Some believe setting up a fishing spot increases the chances of landing big fish. On the 65th day of the challenge, only 3 contestants remained. Let's first check on Craig. The temperature was dropping lower and lower. As soon as he stepped outside, he spotted a pine marten in the tree. If hunting were allowed, he would have taken it down for a snack. The little guy even growled at him, making Craig feel helpless. He decided it was more important to hurry to the fishing spot. With the snow, the path to the fishing spot had become very slippery. One wrong step could send him sliding back home. The snow didn't freeze well, and he could suddenly fall into the water despite the already low temperatures. There was even a layer of water on the ice. He had to be cautious everywhere he went. Craig had never experienced such cold before. He felt incredibly uncomfortable, both physically and mentally, and was exhausted every day. All he wanted was to catch a fish soon, but nothing was biting. Maybe he needed bait. He was struggling so much that he couldn't imagine how the others were managing. He doubted anyone could handle it better. He doubted anyone was doing better than him, but he was extremely anxious. Without catching fish, his stored fat wouldn't last long. He was really concerned his body couldn't handle the cold. His shoe soles were already iced over, making fishing conditions far from ideal. Everything was wet, and staying out longer might freeze him. Worst of all, his toes hurt terribly. Fearing frostbite, Craig returned to his shelter to check. Indeed, he had some frostbite, though it wasn't too severe yet. Warming up by the fire should help, but he had to cook more thoroughly from now on.
That's not bad at all.
On the 66th day of the challenge, he woke up early to eat some stored meat. It was really tough to get by. At least nothing had come to steal his food. Now he planned to use the remaining meat as bait. Eating dried pine nuts raw wasn't too bad. Next, he must see if he can catch more fish. This is vital for him. Without fat, he won't last till the end. Each visit, he must re-break the ice, fearing he might eventually harm the fishing line. Life here isn't ideal. He feels quite at ease. He finds ways to keep busy every day. Life isn't too bad. Just like the stored fish that's still there and edible, his mood is pretty good. To his surprise, there's another fish below. Though thrilled, William must carefully reel it in to avoid losing it, which would be a big setback. William is speechless with excitement. This fish is a great size and will let him stay another week. If he could catch one daily, it would surpass hunting a moose. He aims to last 100 days here. William feels strong and fit. He wonders how many contestants remain and hopes they can endure a bit longer too. He really wants to break the record for the longest solo survival. Every time he catches a fish, it means fresh bait to attract more fish. Suddenly, he thinks surviving in the wild isn't so tough. While some argue raw fish is hard on the stomach, William claims it's safe and clean. Eating raw fish provides a lot of nutrients, which is very beneficial for the body. He recommends everyone try this delicacy. By day 67, the transformation from his arrival is stark. He shed a shocking amount of weight. It feels like his bones could break at any moment. He can barely recognize himself. He hopes for some meat to be sent his way. Otherwise, the show might force him to quit. A few days ago, he almost collapsed, but unexpectedly, he caught a big fish. Pace senses his luck is changing. He suspects there's a fish on the line. He was right. Fortune favors him. Another fish to fill his stomach.
Alert, baby.
If he wants to win the prize money, he needs more food. Only then will he have a chance to last until the end. He quickly processes the fish, eats some to maintain his strength, and stores the rest for later. Even though he's unsure of the remaining contestants, he trusts that with enough food, he can outlast them. He's just worried the show might force him to quit due to his weight. Pace thinks there's fish in the hole next door. He keeps trying to pull it up, seeing if it will bite. After teasing it a few times, the fish finally couldn't resist. He quickly pulled it up with force.
Got you.
Wow, his fish are getting bigger and bigger. Can Pace really make it to the end? He needs to catch crabs before dark. Why is there noise next door again? Did he catch another fish? If it weren't so hard to bury people here, I'd think the production team was planting fish. How did he suddenly get so much food? If this isn't staged by the production team, then Pace is just having an incredibly lucky day. Everything is falling into place, and it seems like anyone could take the win. Pace now needs to carefully plan his food distribution. He must make sure he has meat daily. Things are improving, and Pace is already planning how to spend the prize money. On the 68th day of the challenge, Craig was feeling very lost. He hadn't spotted any animals in ages and wished he could catch something soon. He feared the game might head to other contestants and get caught. That would hurt more than being eliminated. Craig believed Jack would make it this far, but Jack left on day 21. He also thought William was just lying there eating fish, hoping others would quit and go home soon. Then he could use the prize money to treat everyone to a big meal. Each day, he collects firewood and brings it back. He's happy with his shelter, but still adjusting to the weather. Craig always collects extra firewood, ensuring he has a backup supply for the shelter if needed. To keep warm, Craig's current solution is to burn more firewood. The shelter is too dry, and he's worried it might catch fire. Previous contestants have faced this issue, so he must be cautious. He doesn't feel he has any special edge. If the others had a bit more gear, he couldn't outlast them. To keep his feet from freezing, he stuffs bark inside his boots. This way, ice water won't get in. Craig wonders if there might be bears around. Despite the production team's warnings, no bears have been seen. Even if Craig saw one now, he lacks the strength to hunt it. Suddenly, his feet start to feel hot. Wow, part of his boots even melted. Clearly, Craig isn't cut out for this environment. With a hole in his boots, frostbite is more likely. He figures the boots will last a bit longer as long as he avoids soaking them. He quickly went to check on the fish and crabs, thinking a brief exposure wouldn't cause frostbite. He grabbed the axe and began breaking the ice. He noticed the weight change as he lifted it. Sure enough, there was a fish, though it was small. Even a small catch was satisfying. Craig planned to ration his food, eating a bit each day to stretch it out. He set the fish by the fire to thaw, knowing even a few more wouldn't satisfy his hunger. Now he had to split it into portions. His stomach growled with hunger, and he longed for home parties every night. He could only gaze through the window, feeling wretched. He appreciated nature's gift, now able to eat fresh fish. It was incredibly hard to come by. Craig felt deeply lonely, finding solace only in his drawings each day. On the 69th day of the challenge, William noticed the temperature dropping again. He had built a fireplace outside earlier to provide warmth at times like this. It worked well, and he felt warm inside the shelter. Today's priority was constructing a shed. He avoided indoor fires due to the high risk of them catching in this weather. The framework was simple, but required some time to adjust. On the 71st day, noises outside woke Pace up twice. When he checked the fish, he saw it had been bitten. He had no idea how the mink managed to get to the fish, so even after getting food, he couldn't relax. He had to protect the food from animals. Too tired to build a storage cabinet, Pace hung it in a tree. If that wasn't safe, he'd have to sleep with the food. The big fish had been dragged out, with bite marks all over it. He could only save the untouched parts. The good news was the mink didn't eat much. If it had been a wolverine, there'd be nothing left, and it might have attacked him. Now he had to wrap the food in clothes. He hoped this would protect it. If the food got stolen a couple more times, he wouldn't have enough to last. On the 72nd day of the challenge, Craig made some small items to pass the time. He even named each game piece with a character. The game rules were simple: 2 teams, rolling dice, and the one with the highest total points would be eliminated. Then, you can say your goodbyes. and then toss it into the fire as kindling. It's a fun game when you're bored. Time to check the fishing lines. He doesn't know how many contestants are left or how long he has to hold on, so he needs to stay focused. He must stay focused and avoid distractions. The gill net's weaving is subpar, but he hopes it will function in the water. After tying the gill net to the wooden sticks, it can be placed in the water. Setting it up went smoothly. Now, it just needs securing. There were hardly any issues. We'll find out tomorrow if we caught any fish. The injury is more severe than we thought. His right foot is freezing and going numb, risking amputation if it persists. Apart from warming by the fire, he could move around to boost blood flow and help his foot heal. He's unsure how he'll survive the night. Craig just managed to save his foot, realizing it's not just the cold, but also his blood circulation. There's little he can do. He drank tea for nutrients and tried warming by the fire, but neither helped much. His body is getting weaker by the day, and he can't keep his foot warm. Finlay's situation doesn't look good. Could it be that despite all his hunting, he still won't win the prize? If he has to amputate to win, who would trade places with him? Don't let their calm demeanor on camera deceive you. They're suffering inside, talking to themselves daily. Their mental state can't be good.
I'm not feeling the warmth.
Pace is doing much better. He managed to catch some fish and distribute it, but his worried animals might steal it. His beard's been growing out for a while. It keeps him warm but makes drinking water a hassle. Pace thought about trimming it. His only worry was cutting himself. After a little trim, he felt more handsome. The door is almost falling apart because of him. No wonder he felt a draft at night. He needs to gather some pine branches to fix it. With only 4 hours of daylight, fishing and chopping would consume most of his time, making door repairs quite time-consuming. Pace actually has ADHD, which affects his daily life and work a lot, although it has improved over time. But in the wild, it's hard for him to stay focused. The worst part is doing the same things every day. I feel like I'm imprisoned, stuck in a dark room with nothing to do. It's like I'm here to torture myself. I wouldn't advise anyone to attempt this. It really messes with your mind. I'll probably need a few days to recover once I'm back. The remaining participants are really skilled in survival. This isn't something you can endure just by starving. Pace barely sleeps each day, waking at the slightest noise. Even before dozing off, she hears animals roaming around. She can't risk losing more food. Grabbing her bow, she heads outside. Sure enough, the eagle is back to steal. Fortunately, she decided to check, otherwise, much of the meat would be gone by morning. But the noises Pace heard were different. She fears it could be a bear or wolf, and her bow and arrow won't suffice. Plus, that eagle keeps returning to taunt her. This little guy isn't food. She dreads the crew taking her to the sewing machine. She's too exhausted to continue. She tries to rest up for the medical check, but Pace fears disqualification due to her weight. If that happens, he can't accept that outcome. He can only hope the other participants quit soon. The challenge has reached its 74th day. Today is his child's birthday.
Well, happy birthday, William.
He didn't expect to still be here. He misses the birthday cake and party feast. He wonders how his family is doing today. He hopes to win the prize and return home soon. To mark his son's birthday, Vylan plans a big fire ceremony today. He used to handle all the arrangements himself. His son really wants him there, but sadly, he has to miss it this year. He hopes they have a great time today. He'll also have a bonfire to celebrate. He really misses living with his family. Now he needs to take out that big fish. Everyone would be amazed to see it. It turns out ice blocks are really useful. No need to worry about animals stealing it. The fish head is perfect for making fish soup, even without any seasoning. It tastes pretty good. For those with families and kids, survival challenges are really tough due to loneliness. Especially on meaningful days, it makes you want to quit and go home. The challenge has reached its 75th day. Pace woke up early and can only lie in her sleeping bag, wriggling for warmth. It's truly miserable. I can't fathom how the others are managing. It might just be me and one other person left. Quitting now feels like giving away the prize money. It's tougher to accept than being eliminated. The show warned us that those in poor health might have to leave early. The doctor conducted a series of checks on everyone. If no one hid any health issues, although we're all in a pretty dangerous state. We can keep going for now, but by the next checkup, I doubt any of us will finish without issues. After all, we've shed a lot of weight. Pace didn't think he'd still be here, and his emotions are quite mixed. The staff wouldn't say how many are left, but from their exit, it's likely just the two of us. I have to keep going, but it's really too tough. As soon as the crew left, Pace felt particularly miserable. He really wants to quit and leave this place. Who do you think will win the prize money? Let's wait and see together. While others are still worrying about food, this man has a bag full of jerky, not gnawing there. When I get tired of jerky, I can always eat some fish. Plus, those traps might catch some rabbits. The size is impressive, no seasoning needed, just boil it, and it's already delicious. Life keeps improving. Do you think he can last until the end and win the prize? It's day 75 of the challenge. Pes just wrapped up his medical checkup and felt really worn out. While he's safe from elimination for now, he might not be so fortunate next time. He could only wish the others would drop out soon. Finding firewood was getting harder, there were barely any easy pieces left. This snow is really getting to me. I thought my family would come along, but I didn't expect to have to endure this alone. Pes is really struggling. Does he have to endure the full 100 days? This feels like torture. If I were in his shoes, making it a week would be a feat. I should quickly fetch the firewood. Looking at the other contestants, my edge is not having a family. They'll miss home and quit first. Pes should eat as much as possible. If the ice keeps giving, staying out during the day won't be a problem. The short daylight hours are the real issue. It's seriously affecting my ability to go out and sleep. No fish came today, although the food can last a few more days. Animals keep taking the food daily. Pes is unsure how much longer he can endure. Xiao Qi's mood is heavily impacting their survival efforts. He's never been under this much pressure. Quitting the challenge is on his mind. He can't fathom who else might still be competing. If I quit now and let someone else win, it would be totally unacceptable. It reminds me of how one bad decision at home caused so many issues. I need to really think about how long I can hold on before I should give up. The prize money is so tempting, but if you have a physical problem, it's all over. The challenge is on the 76th day. Craig's got a bag full of jerky, which seems like a win, but it's low on fat. If he can't catch any fish, all that jerky won't do much good. It can only give him a slight energy boost. Craig needs to catch more fish and take some time to adjust his emotions to avoid feeling too homesick. Eating too much jerky is harming his teeth, and his gums are bleeding. Craig is relying on ice fishing. Surviving on just jerky is impossible. He's worried the fish might have moved elsewhere. Hopefully, he can catch one today, but reality is harsh. There's nothing. He checks all the remaining fishing lines, but still no fish. After resetting everything, he returns to rest. The stockpiled fish is minimal, just enough for a few days. He needs more fish to survive. People might think it's for eating, but Craig plans to leave it there. Because the animals around won't eat the tails, he decides to trust his survival skills and prove it to everyone. If it were me, I wouldn't want to do this. Is Craig going to give up? It's the 77th day of the challenge. William sits by the fire in his shelter as it starts snowing again. He feels helpless. The snow really affects his mood. William remains by the fire, staring into the flames as the wood burns down. Who knows what's on his mind? It's time to check the traps again. As the weather gets colder, there's even less food to catch. It's been a long time since he saw any rabbit tracks, but now there are more on the ground, and he's very excited. Although rabbits don't have much fat, getting some rabbit meat would really lift his spirits. Otherwise, eating fish daily gets really dull. William plans to set more traps. He can't believe he won't catch a rabbit this way. Every night, he dreams of his wife's cake, as delicious as any bakeries. He wishes she could bring one when she visits. No luck with the rabbit traps. He wonders how the ice fishing is going. He hasn't seen any fish lately, and he loves fishing. He thinks the fish might have moved elsewhere. In this cold weather, it's really hard to get food. Based on his current stockpile, he can only survive for another week. With his beard frozen, William finds it really tough. It's day 78 of the challenge. The camera shifts to Craig. He's about to start another game party. The eliminated ones go straight into the fire. After days of competition, only a few top contestants remain. It's time to choose the final winner. After many rounds of intense competition and steady investments, congrats to him for winning this time. I hope I can win this challenge too. It feels like the sun never came out today. It'll probably be dark soon. Craig intends to check the traps first, but isn't very hopeful, as the odds of catching anything are slim. He sees rabbit tracks near the camp and suddenly feels hopeful. Maybe today he'll get some rabbit meat. Just as he hoped, he found a rabbit in the trap. Craig was thrilled. It confirmed that setting the traps there was a smart move. Sometimes, traps yield delightful surprises. The rabbit was large and would pair well with other food. Craig is fixated on cooking rabbit meat, using leftovers as bait. He feels the prize money is within reach. Prepared for the 100-day challenge, the rabbit, once cooked, gives off a tempting aroma. He especially enjoys the rabbit's head. The bones that come in there, dig them out and eat them, and I hope everyone can eat them, and I don't know what kind of meal my family eats. I really want to see everyone again. Meanwhile, Pes is struggling. He's been crouching here for ages, unable to catch a break. Pess made several attempts but failed. His legs went numb from squatting, forcing him to eat the stored meat. There's just a tiny bit of meat left, and even a piece this size barely curbs the hunger. Winning this prize money is really tough. Back at the shelter, he huddled by the fire, trying to warm up. He expected it to be cold, but not this freezing. His limbs felt like they were turning into popsicles. He wore all his clothes, but they didn't help much. A long, cold night awaited him. Every night here is unbearable, constantly weighed down by loneliness, even though he knows he can leave anytime. But since he's come this far, Pess is determined to push on for the prize. The fish soup smells awful. He forces the soup down, just enough to fill his stomach. Soon, he'll drift into a dream. In my dreams, I can eat anything I desire. My only fear is sleeping so deeply that I won't wake up, and the crew might find me already decomposing. Pess keeps pushing himself, insisting he can't be the one to quit. He believes if he holds on a bit longer, he can make it. It all hinges on finding more food before his supplies are gone. A rabbit or fish, anything will work. Suddenly, he recalls his belt resembles fish. Maybe I can use it as bait to catch some fish. Experienced anglers know this kind of bait is great for attracting fish. As long as he catches one, he can keep going. It's the 79th day of the challenge, and William is in high spirits. Surviving in the wild isn't too tough for him. He's already planning what gifts to bring back and feels sure he can win the prize money. He's unsure how many contestants remain. He needs more food to feel safe, but there aren't many rabbit tracks around. Maybe he needs to set more traps. After walking for a while, William starts to feel a bit tired and has to slow down. As the challenge progresses, there's a worry that fatigue could cause injury. But then, he finds a rabbit in one of his traps, lifting his spirits. Now he's even more confident about completing the challenge. He plans to set more traps nearby, hoping to catch a few more. He swiftly brings the rabbit back to clean it. No seasoning required, just straight into the pot. It's the best meal he's had in ages. William feels rejuvenated. Though nighttime temperatures are falling, the contestants can rest in their shelters. They're unaffected by the snow outside. On this 80th day, everything is blanketed in snow. Pess is really worried. He fears the traps are ruined and just hopes the ice sculptures survived. Pess didn't expect it to snow so much last night. Everything is covered, making it hard for him to find his way. In just a short time, his feet start to hurt. He tries to fish quickly, leaving only when he feels unwell. His food might run out in a few days. If he doesn't catch fish soon, he may have to quit and go home. The weather is freezing and his fingers are numb. He even asked the producers not to tell him about any family issues during the challenge. Pess really wants to win the prize money to change his life, but it looks like he won't catch any fish today. Pess is on the verge of breaking down. He doesn't know how the other contestants are doing, but he himself is in bad shape. If this continues, his body won't hold up. He's stopped doing anything now, mainly because the lack of nutrition has made him weak. He's been toughing it out to remain in the game, aware that time is nearly up and pushing further. Pess fears he won't make it out and worries about his family. He thought the challenge would last 2 months at most. He didn't expect it to drag on this long. He might never get another chance to win this much money. Pess is really torn. Do you think he'll give up? Ultimately, he called the crew. It was a tough choice. If he caught a fish today, he might hold on a bit longer. But when the crew arrived, he felt relieved. This is the longest I've ever been away from home, and the loneliness is unbearable. Pess feels he's given it his all. He never thought anyone could outlast him. As long as he doesn't finish second, he's okay with it. This challenge has been brutal. Pess just wants to get home, see his family, eat, drink, and sleep in. With him out, it's down to William and Craig. Who do you think will be this year's champion? It's day 81 of the challenge. The camera shifts to Craig. I'm so thinner than when I first arrived, and I feel like I'm going to be blown away by the wind at any moment. Compared to physical exhaustion, he's never felt this mentally drained or lonely before. Many times, he's wanted to quit and go home. If the show didn't require him to talk more, Craig would be in his sleeping bag right now. He really misses his family. When will this nightmare end? Now, he can only go outside to check the fishing lines, trying to keep himself busy to forget the loneliness. Even though it's already freezing, the slushy snow on the ice makes walking here really uncomfortable. My toes will definitely get frostbite soon. The worst part is the big cracks in the ice. I can't stay here long. You can't even be sure the water is safe. Craig would rather catch no fish at all than fall in and get soaked. So he packed up all his tools and left, hoping the others would quit soon. The remaining meat might not last. Besides that, only rabbits are left to catch and eat. Meanwhile, William remains calm. His plan is working well. The food he has stored is still good. He checks and adjusts the traps every day. He believes few would have lasted this long. As long as he stays healthy, William is confident he can win. He's come this far already. Someone is bound to hunt down a caribou. If you want to stay longer, the more food, the better. The camera shifts to Craig. His mental state is worsening. His teeth can't handle the jerky's toughness anymore. If this keeps up, Pes fears he won't be able to eat it all soon and doubts anyone can survive the full 100 days. He knows staying calm is crucial right now. Craig frequently felt torn while holding the communicator, aware that pressing it meant going home to a big meal. In the end, he held back. Craig knew he'd quit eventually, but not today. He wanted to push on a bit longer. By the 83rd day, Craig had lost the desire to go out and was chewing on jerky. The prize money could improve his life, but staying here longer suddenly felt meaningless to Craig. At some point, he felt that not winning might be okay and suddenly lost the drive to keep trying. There probably weren't many contestants left. If he quit, the prize would go to someone else. That outcome didn't seem so bad. Once this thought entered his mind, Craig kept comparing. Was it worth pushing on? He had achieved everything but the prize money. Lasting 83 days was no small feat. He could go home now and proudly tell his kids about his efforts. Craig was feeling quite low at that moment. His heart was already wavering, yearning to go home. Could he hold on? Craig wrestled with this for a long time. In the end, he called the show's team. He felt there was no point in continuing and thanked nature for taking care of him. In previous seasons, he would have already been the champion, but it didn't matter. He found something more meaningful. He chose to go home early to be with his family, feeling he had already proven himself. Craig would definitely join future challenges. Next time, he would hunt more game. It was really a pity. I thought Craig would win the prize after hunting the reindeer. I didn't expect him to quit the challenge in the end. All the uneaten food would be packed up and taken back. One small regret was that his wife didn't come to see the Arctic, but he would soon meet her at home, and everything would get better. He hoped his kids wouldn't feel bad about the prize money. True victory was never measured by money. Although he wasn't the final winner, he felt very proud to have lasted this long. With Craig leaving the Arctic and going home, the champion was William. No one thought he would make it this far. On the 84th day, William got a call from the show's team for a medical checkup. At that moment, he had no suspicions and assumed it was just a routine checkup, believing the challenge would last 100 days. His toe was a bit sore, and he hoped it wouldn't affect the upcoming checkup. He tried to look as spirited as possible. He put the fish in the pot to stew, ready to continue the challenge. The show's team had come to check his health. His little toe had a bit of frostbite, but it wasn't serious. Overall, William was in good shape. He could easily survive the full 100 days, but his wife couldn't wait any longer and surprised him by sneaking up behind him. He felt he could keep going, but was curious about how many contestants were left. His wife had already come up behind him. William wasn't excited because of his wife, he was genuinely shocked. He hadn't expected the challenge to end so suddenly. He felt a mix of emotions and quickly showed his wife around his tiny shelter, which was smaller than their bathroom at home. His wife was amazed. He had lost a lot of weight since he first arrived. She planned to care for him well once they got home. They would then decide together how to spend the prize money. What are your thoughts on this season's winner, William? We can't wait to see even more remarkable contestants in future wilderness survival shows. Let's wait and see together.